Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Cribble-Ruck Run. Hello, Daryl. It's been roughly a month since we hired you on as a delivery boy for Nick and Rick's Brick Oven Pizza. In that time, you have done outstanding work. You've been delivering with exceptional speed and quality, and it's our understanding you're notably polite with our customers. Several of them have actually tried to request you specifically for delivery a few times. For this reason, we're going to be sending you on deliveries to Cribble-Ruck Run within the next few days. Many of our regulars are from here, and most of them place excessively unusual orders. We charge fees for the more unique requests, and the customers are often so thrilled to get the food they compensate the deliverer notably for any inconveniences. The neighborhood is almost outside of our area of delivery. That said, delivering to Cribble-Ruck Run brings with it several risks. Remember that agreement waiver you signed before coming on with us and gave us weird looks for when you got to the part about beheadings. This neighborhood is the reason we have it. We've lost multiple inexperienced delivery drivers there before. Many were lost simply to the neighborhood's conditions, but a few of our customers actually have small body counts. And several of them have counts so high we charge an additional fee to deliver to them. No, we can't call the cops. You'll understand why soon. As such, to prepare you for your first delivery there, we'll be giving you a list of rules and tips to follow while in Cribble-Ruck Run. Please read them in advance. We value your delivery services and would prefer to keep you. 1. Before leaving the restaurant for Cribble-Ruck Run, be sure the mini freezer on your back seat contains one whole ham. While you hopefully won't need it, please don't leave without it. If we're out of ham, you are free to buy one on the way and we'll reimburse you for the cost. Obviously, try not to keep the customer waiting longer than necessary. 2. Never leave for Cribble-Ruck Run without one of the maps we have of the neighborhood. Electric devices often fail around those parts, so you can't depend on your GPS for directions. 3. Don't idle your vehicle unnecessarily at any point once you enter the area. The only time your car should stop is when you reach the customer's residence, and you should avoid staying in front of the house for any period of time after delivering the order. 4. Watch the road for a large dog after passing the community's entrance. He'll usually attempt to run in front of your car when you first enter the neighborhood. Try not to hit him. 5. Should you hit him, he isn't usually overly dangerous, but hitting him particularly hard might make him mad. Stop briefly to watch until he gets up. Once he does, he'll stare at you, growl angrily, then run away. Not watching will offend him. He'll think you don't care about his well-being. And while you'll probably leave the neighborhood just fine, your next visit might not end so well. 6. If your car ever breaks down completely, quickly but calmly, go to the front of the vehicle and kick the hood as hard as you can. If any residents were responsible, this will be enough to counter their effects and the vehicle should act normally now. 7. If the car won't start back up, quickly but calmly, as in without running, continue with the delivery on foot. Don't stop moving unless you want to be noticed. Trust us, you don't want unnecessary attention around here. 8. Once you deliver the orders, take the ham and find your way to the old house covered in vines near the neighborhood center. Knock on the door. This is the home of Granny Longpaw. She's relatively sweet and will gladly let you stay with her until your car can be towed and you can be picked up. Do, however, be polite. Don't act startled or frightened by her appearance or height, and always give her the ham before entering. She has a ravenous hunger and unfortunate instincts. Don't worry though, the ham has always been enough to keep her from acting irrationally with our other employees. You shouldn't be an exception. 9. Be aware that not all of our regulars in this neighborhood live in houses. You'll occasionally be delivering to trees, streams, sewer grates, and even underneath the neighborhood's stone bridge. 10. Be mindful of the large pine tree near the aforementioned bridge. If it ever seems to have changed spots or is missing entirely, be prepared to visit Granny Longpaw. It won't be safe for you to leave until morning. 11. Don't expect all of our regulars from Cribble-Ruck Run to pay with the same currency. This neighborhood has individuals from all walks of life, and many of them are from a different time. Several of them won't actually pay with money, but rather with various objects ranging from watches to half-dead animals. Bring whatever they give you, and we'll figure out the rest. 12th, do not refuse any attempt at payment, no matter how strange it is. You'll definitely insult them, and that won't end well for any of us. We'll probably lose a customer, and you'll probably lose a leg, and hopefully nothing else. 13. Before re-entering your vehicle, check the back seats and trunk for hitchhikers. There's a lot of them in Cribble-Ruck Run, and they're a big part of the reason so many fatal car accidents happen around that area. 14. If at any point you think you're going in circles or seem to be passing the same houses multiple times, close your eyes, clap exactly 5 times, and continue driving. You should be able to leave now. 15. When leaving the neighborhood, be prepared to swerve suddenly. Several residents don't like it when visitors try to leave, and the trees are by far the worst offenders. And that's the gist of what you need to know. That said, delivering to most of the residents in Cribble-Ruck Run can be rather troublesome, so we have individual files of important information written for each one. We'll give you these files as we give you their orders, but keep in mind, we'll be holding several regulars from you for a while. Again, we value your delivery services greatly, and would prefer to keep you as long as we can. Yours truly, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Granny Longpaw. Hello, Daryl. We once again would like to thank you for being a reliable employee. As we mentioned previously, we'll soon be sending you on your first delivery to Cribble-Ruck Run. Truth be told, we had hoped to send you sooner, but there's a specific customer we wanted you to deliver to for your first delivery. She took much longer than usual to place an order with us after an incident with a previous delivery boy. As we said previously, delivering to each and every resident of Cribble-Ruck Run brings with it a series of risks. To improve your odds, we're giving you detailed information on the customer you're delivering to. We want to be sure you're properly prepared. Customer name, Granny Longpaw. Address, 2249 Lesher Road. Residence description, large decrepit wooden house covered almost entirely in thick vines. A regular order, 1 large meat lover's pizza, slightly burnt at the edges, topped with an extra mixture of raw quail, salmon and rabbit, seasoned with cinnamon. Customer description, Granny resembles a thin, shriveled old lady. Physically, she appears to be in her late 80s, though we doubt she's that young. She's always barefoot and wears a brownish-green dress so tattered it looks like it was woven from roots and vines. Her eyes are dark blue, her hair is a greying shade of black, her skin resembles parchment paper, and she consistently walks as if she's limping. Those are by far her most normal characteristics. Additionally, Granny is 8 feet and 2 inches tall when standing straight. Her feet are slightly arched in the back. Her teeth appear to be entirely composed of sharp, pointed canines, and true to her name, Granny's hands are nearly 2 feet long from the tip of the middle finger to the base of the wrist. Most of this length is her fingers, which end in sharp, darkened points without visible fingernails. On top of that, Granny's arms are so long, her fingers very nearly drag across the floor as she walks. Rules for delivery. 1. When knocking on the front door, be very gentle. Granny Longpaw's house is extremely old and structurally unsound. If you thought those vines all over the house look like they're holding the whole thing together, it's because they are. One of our previous employees managed to knock so hard, the door actually fell on him. 2. Granny will answer the door immediately after you knock. Doesn't matter if you previously saw her in an upper window or thought you noticed her in the nearby trees. She will always be right at the door when you knock. 3. Avoid making quick, sudden movements around Granny. She's a sweet old lady at heart, but is without a doubt victim to her instincts. 4. No matter what happens, never run from Granny. Predators simply can't resist the urge to chase moving prey. 5. If you notice tree roots climbing around your body, don't be alarmed. This is just how Granny greets people. Think of it as equal to a cat or dog sniffing unfamiliar individuals. 6. Avoid touching any of the vines covering Granny's house. She typically only uses them to hold the house together, but they occasionally ensnare living creatures that touch them. 7. Granny is typically very friendly and usually quite polite, but she's easily offended by rude behavior, as well as insults against plants and animals. Get too rude, and she may even slap you. 8. Try to avoid making physical contact with Granny in any way. She doesn't know her own strength. The last driver who delivered to Granny was a bit clumsy and accidentally tripped on her porch. When he did, Granny tried to help the man by grabbing his hand. That hand ended up so badly broken, the doctor ended up having to amputate it. She's also repeatedly decapitated people on accident by slapping them. 9. Granny's eye color is an indicator of her mood and physical condition. Dark blue is normal. White means she's exited. Violet implies she's sad. Black indicates anger. And yellow rings over the current color are a sign of extreme hunger. You'll probably notice the yellow rings in one form or another whenever you meet her. 10. The yellow rings will widen the more hungry she is. If when delivering to her the rings are so wide you can't see another color, slowly step back and throw the pizza at her. Granny is dangerously, irrationally hungry in this state. She'll probably devour the pizza with such speed it won't even have time to hit the floor. Trying to give her the pizza any other way in this situation typically ends in missing limbs and horrified apologies from Granny at best, and missing persons reports and loads of paperwork at worst. 11. If the rings become that wide under other circumstances, slowly and quietly go to your car, get the ham from the backseat mini fridge and throw it to her. 12. If you don't have the ham, you're in big danger. Treat her like you would a Bengal tiger. 13th. Her choice of payment is among the stranger ones we get. After receiving the pizza, she'll reach into the mass of vines you probably thought was a ruined welcome mat and pull out a wooden cage. Count the type and number of animals inside like you were counting money. To her, box turtles are equivalent to $20, hedgehogs to $10, songbirds to $5, bats to $1, spiders to quarters, moths to dimes, beetles to nickels, and crickets to pennies. 14. Granny will tell you how much money she's giving you, tip included. Do, however, be certain the animals in the cage correctly add up to the amount she claimed it was. Granny is not dishonest, but she often likes to test people on their own honesty. She'll confront you if you try to take more or less than the amount she agreed on. The situation may get out of hand from there. Rules for visiting. 1. Granny will usually invite you inside after paying for the pizza. She won't be offended if you decline, but as we mentioned previously, you'll probably be running into her quite a bit when delivering to Cribble-Ruck Run. We suggest you try to get to know her. 2. Never enter Granny's house without first giving her the ham from your car's mini freezer. While she's probably not hungry after eating the pizza, Granny's hunger grows relatively quickly. If it's not already clear, you do not want to be around Granny when she's hungry. And no matter what, she'll certainly appreciate the ham. 3. As mentioned previously, be polite when talking to Granny, and don't talk offensively about nature in any way. The last time someone got too rude while visiting her, Granny loosened several of the vines holding the ceiling above the visitor. We wish we could say being hit by falling planks and floorboards was the worst thing that happened to him afterwards. 4. Granny may offer you tea and cookies while visiting her. We do not suggest accepting the offer. Nearly everything Granny consumes is either meat or is derived from meat. Her tea is in fact boiled blood. We'd rather not talk about the cookies. 5. If Granny ever randomly tenses up and starts glaring, followed by her eyes turning solid black for no conceivable reason, someone or something has entered her territory without permission. If your car is working, politely tell her you're leaving. If your car isn't working, ask if you can go downstairs for a while. Either way, she'll reply with, "Of course, dearie," then almost immediately crash through the nearest wall to go deal with the intruder. Don't worry about the house, the vines will pull the wall back together in no time. 6. Granny's basement has multiple rooms. While down there, never enter any room that doesn't have a door. Granny keeps one specific room ready for guests at all times. You'll know it when you see it. It's the only room that actually has a door. 7. Within the guest room, you'll find a single bed and a number of mint bundles hanging around the door. Keep one of the bundles with you at all times, but make sure the others stay on the door. Granny keeps them here to disguise her guest's scent from herself. If she ever loses herself to hunger while you're visiting, this room will be the only thing that can keep you off the menu. 8. If, after Granny left, you hear crashing sounds following by roaring, shrieking, quickly and immediately get under the bed. Granny occasionally deals with intruders by luring them into her house, then letting the entire structure collapse on top of them. She doesn't rely on this strategy too often, though. Usually the trees help her eliminate the intruder quickly. But don't be too alarmed if this does happen. You should be perfectly safe from the debris if you're underneath the sturdy bed frame, and Granny will always have the house rebuilt entirely within an hour. 9. While you should always avoid entering any and all of the rooms without doors, especially avoid entering the room made entirely of plants. This is Granny's den. Entering it is a surefire way to doom yourself, especially if the plants manage to catch you. 10. If you're visiting Granny because your car broke down, see the previous rules we sent you for a reminder on why that might happen. Do not leave the guest room once inside until you know a reliable method of transportation is outside and ready to pick you up. 11. Before you go, always let Granny know you're leaving first. She'll be offended otherwise. 12. If for whatever reason you can't find her, leave a small note behind so Granny knows you've left. She'll appreciate the gesture. That should be pretty much everything you need to know about Granny Longpaw, given that she is by far the most well-meaning resident of Cribble-Ruck Run and also your best option for help if you get stuck in Cribble-Ruck Run. We always send employees new to the neighborhood delivering to Granny first. And while she is certainly dangerous, Granny is overall one of the least dangerous residents in the area, at least towards you. We feel that delivering to her first helps to give you an understanding of Cribble-Ruck Road, and you'll definitely need to understand this place as much as possible to deliver there safely. As long as all goes well with Granny, we'll be sending you on more deliveries for the neighborhood in the near future. And please, always use proper caution when you're there. A neighborhood where one of the least dangerous residents is capable of decapitating you, breaking your bones, or eating you alive accidentally is a neighborhood to be extremely wary of. Yours truly, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to the Candleman. Hello again, Daryl. From what we've heard, your first delivery to Cribble-Ruck Run went without a hitch. Granny Longpaw doesn't often tip with songbirds. Therefore, we'll be sending you on your next delivery to the neighborhood shortly. This next regular of ours tends to be a bit troublesome. We're pretty sure he's not ordering so much for the pizza as he is for the driver. That said, he pays and tips well. We'll provide you with the necessary information and guidelines on the customer once again to make sure you're properly prepared. Follow it accordingly, and there shouldn't be anything to worry about. Customer name, The Candleman. Address, 2075 Maple Boulevard. Residence description, small brick house with a terracotta roof. The lower shingles on the left front corner are broken to missing. Regular order, 1 medium plain cheese pizza, extra cheese, crust burnt until completely black. Customer description. The Candleman resembles a Caucasian middle-aged male. He is about 5 feet tall with an average build and shape, though he's slightly malnourished. His body, aside from the arms, shoulders and lower head, is completely and entirely wrapped with linen strips. Multiple badly torn fabric sheets are draped around his waist, along with a large burlap pouch. His eyes are completely covered with fabric, and he always carries a tarnished silver chamber stick. A large number of white candles rests on his head and shoulders, with the melting wax dripping constantly to the point of covering most of his clothing in a thin waxy sheen. Additionally, the Candleman's lips and hands are charred black as if badly burnt. He's also nearly always grinning. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving the restaurant, be certain there's a large jar of pink lotion in the glove compartment. Hopefully you won't need it, but it's always best to have it just in case. 2. Try to make this delivery as brief as possible. The less time you spend around the Candleman, the better. 3. Never take your eyes off the Candleman until you're back in your car. He's patient and always waiting for an opportunity to strike. 4. Never let the candleman touch you. 5. Do not at any point assume that the candleman can't see you just because his eyes are blindfolded. The candleman's eyes aren't in his head. 6. Do not look directly into the candles. Making direct eye contact with the candleman is a serious mistake. 7. The candleman will try to lengthen your interaction with him any way he can. He'll usually start small talk, telling you of a sad tragedy that befell him or of an outlandish incident he was involved with. Anything that will keep you at his house longer. Again, do not spend more time around him than necessary. End any conversation as quickly as possible. The longer he talks, the more chances and openings he'll get. 8. The candleman will probably claim he got the wrong pizza and ask you to check the order. He will draw this out as much as possible, often insisting you check multiple times. Check once, then apologize and tell him to place another order if he's displeased with what he got. Typically, he'll respond by simply paying for the one he got. 9. The candleman will pay for the order with a large handful of silver dollars. He'll insist you count the coins, but this isn't necessary. For the last 5 years, we've delivered pizzas to him. He's paid with exactly 32 coins, with the exact same printed year and design on them all each and every time. Pretend to count the coins, but be quick about it. Again, you really don't want to stick around longer than necessary. 10. Do not let the candleman hand you the money directly. We'll give you a bucket for him to put the money in. It is beyond serious that you do not make physical contact with the candleman in any way at all. 11th. As we've stated already, never let the candleman touch you. He will usually try to do it subtly by bumping your hand when taking the pizza from you, but he might lunge at you when he pays for the pizza. He may even try grabbing your face if you look away long enough. 12. If the candleman tries to grab you, or actually does grab you, blow on the candles covering his shoulders. This will make him panic briefly, giving you a chance to run. 13. If the candleman manages to touch you, quickly get into your car, assuming you can break free from him, and lock the doors immediately. Leave the money behind if necessary. Hopefully, the doors are locked before your skin starts burning. 14. Once inside the car with the door locked, quickly apply the pink lotion generously to the burns. The pain as well as the burns themselves will spread and worsen if you don't act quickly. Take too long, and the burns will consume you entirely. 15. Once the burns are dealt with, proceed to recollecting the payment. Crack the back window slightly, very slightly. You don't want to give the candleman another opportunity to attack, and instruct the candleman to slide the money through the gap. Don't worry about calling him over. He'll be right at your door, watching intently. 16. Once you've left the neighborhood completely, pull over and check the outside of the vehicle. 9 times out of 10, you'll find a small red candle somewhere on the car's exterior. Do not touch it. Get it off the car and destroy it completely. It's best you don't let the candleman see where you live. Rules for being visited. 1. If you don't find the candle, you'll be visited by the candleman. When the visit will happen is completely unpredictable. His first visit could happen in 5 years, or it could happen the second you get home. The only things you can be sure of is that he'll only visit if you're at home. He'll always try to wait until you're alone, and he'll only visit at night. There are several things you need to know to be prepared, but this is the simplest and most important warning we can give you. Do not let the candleman inside your house. Getting inside and getting to you is the entire reason he's here. 2. You'll know if the candleman has arrived when the air fills with the smell of fresh rosemary. This smell is also how you'll know when the visit is over. It won't leave until the candleman does. 3. Be certain every single door and window to your house is locked. Even if they should be impossible to reach, make sure they're locked. The candleman is very good at climbing and very persistent. 4. Do not keep lit candles inside your home. They're just as good as eyes for him. 5. Do not answer the phone if it begins ringing. In fact, double-check all the doors and windows quickly. This is typically a sign that the candleman wants to distract you, oftentimes because he's found a way inside. 6. Do not talk to the candleman during his visits, and especially don't insult or yell at him. He may respond by setting your house on fire. 7. If you hear someone you know asking to be let inside, listen closely to their voice. If you can faintly hear the sound of a crackling fire, do not open the door. There's no voice the candleman can't and won't mimic if he thinks you'll fall for it. 8. If he does get inside, leave the house and drive far, far away. Don't return until morning. The candleman will only leave at 6 a.m. exactly. 9. Do not attempt to leave if the candleman isn't inside the house. Chances are he's waiting for you to flee. He'll drop onto you from off the roof the moment you're out the door. 10. Once the candleman's initially visited you, he'll start visiting regularly. The frequency of the visits will increase until he's trying to get inside every single night. The only way to prevent these visits is to move into a different house. As long as the candleman knows where you live, there's nothing stopping him from coming after you. And that's everything you need to know about the candleman. He's without a doubt one of our more troublesome customers, but he pays and tips exceptionally well. Each of those coins is worth far more than just $1. We take the risk in exchange for the reward, and truth be told, he's definitely not our worst regular from Cribble-Ruck Run. That said, you'll never see a candle in any part of our restaurant. You never know when the candleman might be watching. Sincerely, Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Silas Branch. Hello, Daryl. We heard you had a rather close call on your latest delivery. To call the candleman determined is an understatement. It's alarming how eager he is to claim new victims. But don't worry. His burns have a peculiar tendency of leaving no scars whatsoever, assuming the victim survives. Don't ask us how that's possible, because frankly, we have no clue how third-degree burns can just disappear without so much as a trace. But given how well you dealt with the situation, we'll be sending you on your next Cribble-Ruck Run delivery shortly. Just as before, any and all information you'll need is included below. It is beyond important to us that you don't go to this neighborhood unprepared. Customer name, Silas Branch. Address, 2231 Lesher Road. Residence description. Old abandoned house in severe disrepair. Large holes litter the building's walls, and a large willow tree has grown in what used to be the living room. The tree is so tall and so massive that its branches have broken through the roof, hiding the ruined building almost entirely with all its leaves. You're also likely to spot several dead birds scattered within the tangled, overgrown yard. Regular order: large vegan pizza, topped with apple and orange peels, coffee grounds, powdered eggshells, Epsom salt, and honeysuckle flowers. Customer description. At a distance, Silas resembles a heavily suntanned elderly man. His face is accentuated by numerous wrinkles, dimly glowing yellow eyes, and a notably thick beard. He typically wears a dark green shirt and pants, accompanied by a blue-grey flannel jacket. Up close, however, Silas appears notably different. His body is comprised entirely of plants. Withered brown grass makes up his skin, imitating wrinkles with their folds. His hair is comprised of pale willow leaves, while enormous leaves, ferns, and weeds come together to imitate his clothing. The flannel jacket is the only thing not physically connected to him. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for Silas's house, be sure you take a bag of silver vine sticks with you from our supply closet. Keep them on your person at all times once you reach the customer's residence. 2. Before making the delivery, be sure all the car's windows are rolled up completely. 3. Leave any cellular or electrical devices in your car. Silas absolutely despises modern technology. 4. The front door to Silas's house has decayed completely off the doorway. Knock on what's left of the frame to get Silas's attention. 5. Do not step even slightly past the door frame during the delivery. Not only will you irritate Silas, you'll also anger his pets. They absolutely hate strangers. 6. Avoid making unnecessary sound around the house. The willow tree is home to a large colony of pipistrelles, and they are easily disturbed by loud noises. They're small, but extremely tenacious. 7. In addition to the pipistrelle colony, A pair of European wildcats live with Silas as pets. At least one of them will be hissing at you when you reach the doorstep. Be careful not to provoke them by annoying Silas or entering the house. While they aren't terribly big, they are extremely savage. You're almost guaranteed to lose a finger if they attack. 8. When Silas answers the door, don't be alarmed by his angry demeanor. While he is not particularly ill-willed, Silas is stubbornly unsociable and extremely cantankerous. His default facial expression is an irritated glare. 9. Don't talk to Silas outside of delivering the pizza unless he talks to you first. Again, he's quite antisocial, as well as a tad bit temperamental. 10. If for whatever reason Silas starts a conversation with you, do not reference birds of any sort, and especially don't talk about parrots. Silas hates birds as a whole, but a co-worker of his has made him particularly resentful of all species of parrot. 11. If Silas asks if you're any good with plants, be very careful with your answer. Say no, and you'll probably be dealing with his pets shortly. Say yes, and he might actually decide he likes you. However, you might end up getting a little too close to the willow tree if he thinks you're lying. The more indifferent you sound, the better. 12. Regardless of what happens between you two, Silas won't do anything aggressive until after he's received the pizza. For this reason, do not hand him the pizza until after he's paid for it entirely. Get back into the car as quickly as possible afterwards, preferably without acting panicked or alarmed. 13th. Silas should pay for the order with approximately €20. However, there's a good chance he'll try to shortchange you. If he does, politely insist he pay the full price of the pizza. He'll reluctantly give you the missing money afterwards. 14. As a testament to Silas's rude personality, he most likely won't tip you. Be certain you don't hint even slightly that you're annoyed by this. He may send his pets after you if he feels you've become insufferable. 15. If Silas ever stops glaring at you, it's best you back away slowly. The only time he ever stops glaring is when he's bracing himself to attack. 16. If Silas stops glaring, he'll shortly start making a high-pitched murmuring sound, followed by angry shouting, along with wild green grass rapidly flowing over his eyes and through his skin. Try to be back in the car before this happens. He's about to explode into a surging mass of grass and weeds. On top of that, his pets will take this as a signal to attack immediately. 17. If, when Silas sends his pets after you, throw the silver vine sticks behind you as you run for the car, its effects on felines are equal to catnip and will be more than enough to distract the wildcats for a few seconds. This should buy you enough time to reach the vehicle. As for the pipistrelles, all we can hope is that you get into the car before they do. 18. Make sure you're back in the car before Silas reverts into plant life completely. He's all but guaranteed to catch you otherwise. 19. If Silas completely reverted after you got back into the car, don't drive off immediately. Silas will, without a doubt, reach the car before you can leave his house. He'll shake and rattle the vehicle for a while, but he shouldn't be able to break in as long as the windows are up. He's incredibly versatile and more than capable of squeezing through tight spaces, but he lacks raw power. 20. Try to wait until Silas has released his grip on your car before driving off. If you manage to catch part of him under the wheels, he'll become a serious problem for future deliveries to Cribble-Ruck Run. 21. When leaving, be extra cautious of the trees next to the road. There's always a chance they'll interfere with your deliveries, but Silas and the trees have a connection. They won't hesitate to help Silas deal with a troublesome delivery driver. 22. If any of the pipistrelles got into your car, try not to let their frenzied attacks distract you from leaving Cribble-Ruck Run. Once you've left the neighborhood, roll down your windows. At that point, they'll be far less concerned with you and more concerned with getting back to their master. Afterwards, we recommend you visit an urgent care center to get a rabies shot and treatment for any bites and scratches. Rules for escaping. 1. If Silas managed to catch you, he'll ensnare you within the willow's roots, deep in the basement beneath the house. However, you'll most likely be unharmed, save for a few of the willow's roots digging into your skin. You can certainly escape, but there's several precautions you must take first. 2. Don't make any attempt to escape unless there's visible daylight. You'll be able to see it shining through the floorboards. Silas works as a day shift security guard for a nearby museum. You won't get far if you make a run for it while he's still in the house. 3. The roots under your skin should come out relatively easily. However, we must be crystal clear. Don't even so much as touch them until you're ready to escape. The tree will shake and groan violently once it's lost hold of you, and the wildcats and pipistrelles will react to its distress promptly. 4. The tree has multiple individuals trapped within its roots. When making your escape, try to avoid letting them grab you. The tree keeps them from dying, and they're all desperate to escape. They'll beg you to help them. Sadly, there's nothing you can do. The roots that pierce the skin become impossible to remove after 20 hours. Most of those victims have been there for weeks. They'll only hinder your own escape. 5. You may notice an individual wearing our uniform stuck inside the willow's roots. He's what's left of Charlie, one of our previous employees. If you get a chance, please remind him. We still miss him back at the restaurant. You should also thank him. Not only is he the reason this section of the rules exists, he's also the reason there aren't more employees stuck in that tree. 6. Speaking of Charlie, listen to anything he tries to tell you. Being inside the tree for so long has made him delirious and unstable, but he's a caring individual and diligent to details. He'll probably try to help you, and his observations may just be how you escape. 7. Do not attempt to escape by going upstairs. Aside from the likelihood you'll run into Silas's pets up there, the tree won't just stand idle when you break free of it. Its actions will be delayed, but eventually the roots will try to reclaim you. You'll be an easy target on those old, brittle floorboards. 8. While there are several potential exits from the basement, the best and safest way out of the house is through the red cellar door. However, be absolutely sure you don't hear the wildcats outside before you open it. They're rather fond of setting ambushes on the staircase outside the door. We must insist you find another way out if you hear those cats. 9. If the cellar door isn't safe, there are several high windows you can climb out through. Silas keeps a number of smashed televisions and other electric devices downstairs, several of which could be perfect as makeshift stools. That said, be careful which ones you use. Several of those things are bad at supporting weight and will definitely break if you try standing on them. Given everything that's after you, you'll probably only have enough time to try once, so make it count. 10. Once you're outside, be prepared to run. The pipistrelles will be ready for you at that point, as will the willow and the wildcats. There's also a chance the other nearby trees will take interest in the situation. 11. When you do get to the car, do not attempt to leave the neighborhood. Instead, go straight to Granny Longpaw's house with the ham. Her house happens to be a few houses down the street. The trees will be far too riled up at this point. You'll barely get off Lesher Road before one of them totals your car. Wait several hours before leaving. That should be plenty of time for them to calm down. That should be everything you need to know about Silas Branch. For the most part, he'd rather have nothing to do with people at all. Truth be told, if he could get the pizza without human interaction and without using a phone, we'd probably get orders from him daily. But because he can't, delivering to him is quite hazardous. Charlie was hands down our best employee before Silas got him. He's also one of the many reasons our employees get vaccinations for animal-borne diseases on a regular basis. That said, delivering to him is in our best interest. The trees tend to be less troublesome when the deliveries go well. Not to mention, Silas tends to become irate without pizza. When we initially lost Charlie, we actually refused to take further orders from him. Not long after we did, however, our restaurant's sinks, dishwashers, and toilets stopped working. A thorough inspection revealed the cause to be a number of tree roots breaking through the water pipes and cutting off their flow. The roots, interestingly enough, were from a willow tree, despite there being no willow trees for miles of the restaurant. There's still no explanation for how the roots even got there, let alone how they broke the pipes completely in half. But after a long discussion with Silas, the roots disappeared and the pipes were repaired. It is for this reason he's still a customer. If the willow's roots can cross miles underground and break through solid steel like it's cardboard, We'd rather not find out what else Silas is capable of. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to the Garbler. Hello, Daryl. From what we've heard, your delivery to Silas Branch went surprisingly well. Truth be told, we're rather amazed you managed not to thoroughly piss Silas off, given his irritable disposition. For that reason, we'll be sending you to Cribble-Ruck Run on another delivery presently, this time for a slightly higher-risk customer. As always, we'll once again provide you with any information you would potentially need to know about the customer. We should warn you, however, that this next customer can be a bit repulsive. Customer name, The Garbler. Address, 1026 Tina Never Lane. Residence description, moderately sized, heavily dilapidated two-story house. The roof has caved into the second floor entirely, while countless logs, rocks, telephone poles, bones, and pine branches have been integrated into and around the first floor's structure, almost like a giant nest. Regular order, sardine pizza, uncooked, topped additionally with chicken bones and frozen mice. Customer description. The Garbler is a massive, almost incomprehensible amalgamation of dead animals. It is constantly adding new body parts to itself, while also removing the older ones as they become unusable. For this reason, the Garbler's appearance is always changing. At the time of writing, its body consists of 3 asymmetrically sized hoofed left legs, 1 clawed right leg, and about 14 front limbs of various species, with numerous mismatched animal skins covering its body like a macabre quilt. Several of the front limbs have been irregularly extended through additional parts, with the longest measuring about 7 feet. Its head has about 19 rabbit ears, 4 beaks, 7 antlers, 32 eyes, 2 snouts, and 1 tusk, all scattered across an impossibly large skull. Its back is adorned with countless wings, limbs, claws, horns, and antlers, ending in a grotesque train of innumerable tails. The mouth contains so many teeth it won't properly close, and there appears to be multiple tongues within. The Garbler also carries a large, heavily stained burlap sack wherever it goes. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for Cribble-Ruck Run, make sure you're completely covered in clothing from head to toe. None of your skin should be even slightly visible, and be certain it can't be easily made visible in any way. We also ask that you wear a set of tinted shades or goggles for this delivery. 2. Do not head for the neighborhood without taking a whistle from our supply room. Test it to make sure it works before leaving. There's a good chance you'll be needing it. 3. If the Garbler isn't home when you arrive, blow the whistle. Not long afterwards, you'll hear what sounds like multiple people and animals screaming at once. The Garbler will appear shortly afterwards. 4. You'll know the Garbler is close when you notice a horrible stench in the air, followed by a garbled combination of growls, bird calls, squeaks, and human voices in the distance. The only times it doesn't make this sound are when it's sleeping, excited, or hunting. 5. Once the Garbler has arrived, the first thing it will do is inspect and search you thoroughly. It'll sniff and look you over curiously, tugging and scratching at your clothing all the while. Remain calm and be certain it can't see you under the clothing. It never stops looking for new parts. 6. If the Garbler saw any part of you under the clothing, back away slowly and recover whatever the creature saw. With any luck, it didn't see anything it likes, and the delivery will proceed. 7. Whatever you do, do not let the Garbler see your eyes. It's relatively picky when it comes to picking parts, but it can never resist a pair of eyes. You'll be in serious trouble if the abomination sees yours. 8. Once the Garbler has lost interest in you, it'll motion at the pizza. Open the lid and place it on the ground. It will not pay for the pizza until it's had a chance to look it over. 9. After the Garbler has thoroughly inspected the pizza, it'll pay for the pie with a combination of paper bills, coins, jewelry, glasses, and metal tooth fillings, pulling the items from its burlap sack. It's best not to think about how or where the Garbler got those items. 10. Use a plastic bag to collect the Garbler's payment. Along with any valuables it collects, the creature keeps countless body parts in that sack. Whatever payment you receive will be covered in blood and filth. 11th. Turn around and leave the second the pizza's been paid for. There are certain things in this world you'll wish you could unsee after you've already seen them. How the Garbler eats is one of them. Rules for getting away. 1. If the Garbler at any point decides you have a part that it wants, it'll voice its enthusiasm with a sound reminiscent of high-pitched giggling. This should go without saying, but run away immediately. 2. The beast's misshapen body makes it slow, so you should be able to get away initially. However, the creature is extremely persistent. It has a strong desire to collect new parts and won't let you escape easily. 3. Do not run for your vehicle. While we wouldn't normally suggest running through Cribble-Ruck Run, getting in the car and starting the engine will take longer than you have time for. And while the Garbler isn't particularly fast, it's more than strong enough to flip your car. 4. Should you hear loud cracking and shaking behind you, prepare to dodge sharply to the side. The Garbler has found a suitable object to throw at you. There's a very good chance the object is a street lamp, and the creature's aim is surprisingly spot on. 5. Keep an eye out for roadkill as you run. If you manage to find any, make sure the Garbler sees it. The beast won't be able to resist stopping to examine the corpse. 6. If you hear the sound of multiple small objects hitting the ground, the Garbler apparently really wants you. It's shedding multiple parts to pick up speed. However, this might work to your advantage. If you can keep away long enough, it'll hastily turn around to recollect everything it dropped. 7. Should the Garbler catch you, it won't take long for it to start ripping off the features it likes most about you for itself. Before this happens, blow the whistle as close to the monster's ears as possible. Its many ears make it extremely sensitive to loud noises. The resulting pained thrashing will give you a chance to get away. Yelling loud might work too, but the whistle is most reliable. 8. If you manage to lose the Garbler and get back to your vehicle, immediately hide in the trunk. Even if your pursuer isn't nearby, you should not attempt to drive away until the beast is back in its house. There's a great chance it'll slam your car off the road as you attempt to leave. 9. Eventually, you'll probably hear several songbirds nearby, followed by a car driving down the road, or a group of people walking nearby, or possibly even someone from our restaurant calling your name. No matter what you hear, don't leave your hiding spot. If the Garbler's call wasn't a hint, the creature is an excellent mimic, more than capable of copying any sound it hears. It's highly skilled at creating ambient settings to lure potential victims. 10. Before giving up completely, it will check your car to make sure you aren't inside. Fortunately, it won't register your trunk as a possible hiding spot. When the beast doesn't find you, it will resume its chaotic call and reluctantly head back inside. It's home. 11th. Do not leave the trunk until you can no longer hear the Garbler's call. Once the sound is gone, quickly get into the front seat and start the engine. 12th. Be ready to floor the gas pedal once the engine starts. The Garbler will hear you escaping and won't hesitate to attack. You'll have just enough time to drive away before it's too late. That's about everything you need to know about the Garbler. We have no idea what it truly is or where it came from, and frankly, we're fine with not knowing. It's a miracle we haven't lost any delivery drivers to the creature yet, given how it is certainly responsible for several missing persons reports, among other things. The only reason we deliver to it is simply because of the sheer number of regulars we already have in the area. Combined with the value of the items it pays with, the risk is typically worth the reward. Of course, any and all interactions with that creature must be treated with extreme caution. 2 years ago, 15 hikers and backpackers disappeared in the national park near Cribble-Ruck Run. Nearly all of them were found on the side of a highway, alive but seriously injured. Each one of them was missing various body parts, ranging from ears and fingers to entire limbs. When asked what happened, they each described a similar scenario. They were walking through the woods when suddenly the air filled with countless bird calls. They then heard a loud crash, followed by a child frantically calling out for help. When they tried to find the child, however, everything changed. The birds and the child went silent and were replaced by a loud, frantic giggling and a nauseating stench. Next thing they knew, someone had knocked them out and dragged them to the highway they were found by. Apparently, half of them were actually awake when they were being dragged, but none of them could give a description of the assailant. You see, there was one specific detail all the victims had in common. They were all missing their eyes. So please, if ever you suddenly hear bird calls followed by suspicious voices, or worse, smell a horrible decaying odor filling the air, run and never look back. The Garbler likes many things, but it can never resist a beautiful set of eyes. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Sam Ninso. Hello, Daryl. From what we've heard, things very nearly got out of hand on your latest delivery to Cribble-Ruck Run. We probably should have specified how likely the Garbler was to grab for your glasses. That said, we're beyond relieved to hear the situation didn't escalate further, and we'll be sending you on yet another delivery to Cribble-Ruck Run shortly. Much like the Garbler, this next customer tends to be a high risk for deliveries, but with the information we've provided below, we're certain you'll be just fine. Customer name, Sam Ninso. Address, 2038 Maple Boulevard. Regular order, extra large mushroom pizza, topped with wood trimmings and plaster, crust made from wood polish and lacquer. Residence description. The residence changes its appearance frequently. One day, the house will be a quaint little one-floor cottage, then the next, it'll be a fancy split-level home. It's even been a modestly sized mansion on occasion, complete with lawn decor and fancy sculptures. However, certain details of the structure never change. The porch light is always flickering, the left window next to the door is always broken, and the porch is always a raised deck, covered on the sides with thatched wooden paneling. Customer description. Ninso's appearance changes with the residence, and it's just as variable in every way. Rules for delivery. 1. When delivering to Sam Ninso, there is one rule that is by far the most important. Do not approach the house, stay on the sidewalk, and don't even approach the yard. It is critical that you don't get closer to the house than necessary. 2. Be sure to keep an eye on where you're standing during this delivery. There's a good chance the ground under your feet, and even the sidewalk itself, will slowly slide you towards the house. Be certain you don't get pulled past the sidewalk this way. 3. Once you're in front of the house, call out to Sam that his pizza has arrived. Almost immediately afterwards, the front door will open and a head will peer out at you. 4. Sam will try to insist you bring the pizza directly to the door. He'll give a laundry list of reasons why he can't come get it himself. He's on house arrest, there's a cake in the oven, or the cold air is just too much for his feeble elderly figure to bear. He might even claim he's incapable of leaving the house, which isn't entirely untrue. Again, do not approach the house even slightly. Be firm and insist that he come to you. 5. Multiple figures might appear next to the first, trying to back up Sam's points. It's worth noting, however, that the persons peeking from behind the door most likely aren't correctly moving their lips to match the words you're hearing. Additionally, listen long enough, and you'll realize all those voices are in fact one voice trying to sound like multiple people. Again, do not get closer to the door. 6. During this time, you'll probably hear one of several different things just out of view behind the house. It may be a couple arguing angrily, someone screaming in pain for help, or a friendly-sounding dog or cat. It may even just be someone calling you over by name. Whatever it is you're hearing, you'll find yourself wanting to check it out further, but it's critical that you don't. What you're hearing is nothing more than bait to get you closer to the house. 7. Eventually, Sam will give up, and the figure peeking out from behind the door will then withdraw back into the house. Immediately afterwards, several white tendrils resembling giant cobwebs will extend towards you from the doorway. Avoid touching them, and don't let any of them get behind you. Sam wants the pizza, but he's an opportunistic eater by nature. Anything he can catch is fair game. 8. One of the tendrils will drop an assortment of jewelry onto the sidewalk, while another will motion for you to hand it the pizza, step back slightly, then give it the pie. 9. Do not attempt to collect the jewelry until the tendrils have fully retracted into the house. Sam is incredibly opportunistic, and attacking while you're picking up his payment is an excellent opportunity. 10. Keep an eye on the broken window by the door. There's a chance an enormous eyeball will fill the other side of the window entirely. Should you see it, Sam Ninso has decided he's keenly interested in you. Be prepared for the tendrils to come hurtling out of the house without warning. They're guaranteed to make an attack if Sam looked at you directly. 11. Should one of the tendrils grab you, your best option is to hold on to anything you pass near as you're dragged towards the house. Sam's grip is relatively weak, so even the slightest resistance will be enough for you to get free. As long as you break loose before you reach the porch, you should escape relatively easily. 12. Should you hear loud cracking and groaning coming from underneath the porch, get back to the car quickly. Several long, thorny, spider-like legs are about to shoot out from underneath the house. It is important that you don't let them reach you. There's no escaping those things once they're latched onto you. 13. If you're too slow to get into the car, Sam might start reshaping himself in an attempt to catch you, along with your car. You'll know this is happening if the porch light stops flickering. This will quickly be followed by the house cracking and creaking like it's ripping itself apart, numerous spidery legs sprouting from underneath the house, and every single window being filled with giant silvery eyes. This almost certainly doesn't need to be said, but don't let Sam catch the car. He'll never let go again. 14. Thanks to his size, Sam dislikes moving long distances, except for very special circumstances. So chances are he won't chase you past the closest neighboring houses. However, this doesn't mean he's given up entirely. Check your rear-view mirror consistently when leaving. Hopefully, you'll see nothing unusual as you leave the neighborhood, and all is well. Rules for being chased. 1. As you're leaving Cribble-Ruck Run, there's a chance you'll notice one or more slender, horribly misshapen quadrupedal figures chasing after your car. These are the corpses of Sam's past victims, and also the figures you saw at the door. He's integrated large parts of himself into their remains, altering and reshaping them for use in running down escaped prey. These proxies of his are extremely fast, and Sam is incredibly skilled at using them as a pack. However, using them is exhausting for Sam, and he often wears out after several minutes. Keep away from them long enough, and he'll eventually give up. 2. Keep account of how many proxies are behind you at any time. Sam typically hunts with 2 to 3 of them, but he has 8 individual proxies that we know of, and usually tries to keep them split up to improve his strategic options. If more than one of them is chasing you directly, Sam is trying to keep your attention focused on them to distract you from your surroundings, creating an attack opening for his other proxies. 3. As we said before, the proxies are extremely fast. Their maximum speed is around 50 miles per hour when running straight. As such, they'll probably catch up to your vehicle eventually. When this happens, let them get within about 10 feet of your car, then slam on the brakes. The damage they'll take from running into your car should keep them from being able to chase you further. 4. Get back to speed immediately after the proxies crashed into your bumper. Not only is this a chance for the other proxies to strike, but the ones you hit won't hesitate to damage your tires if you give them the chance. 5. While you should always watch the road carefully while driving, be especially watchful for any nails or large wood splinters on the road. Sam will often send a proxy ahead of you to sabotage the roads he thinks you'll turn onto. You'll be in trouble if you get a flat tire while he's after you. 6. If one of the proxies charges you from the front, do not hit the brakes. Slowing the car down is the single worst thing you can do in this situation. Instead, swerve to avoid it the best you can. The proxy will almost certainly hit you regardless, but it's in your best interest that they don't go straight through the windshield. Sam will all but have caught you if that happens. 7. If the proxies breach the inside of your car at all, watch out for wood splinters flying through the air. Even the smallest piece of that wood is connected to Sam. Should the splinters touch you physically, they'll probably dig deep into your skin, causing excruciating pain. This is just another way Sam tries to distract you from his proxies. 8. If they're particularly persistent, turn onto Lesher Road. Its residents are less than fond of Sam Ninso, and they won't take kindly to his proxies getting near their homes. Half the time, the proxies won't even keep chasing you once you've turned down the road. The one downfall to this strategy is that the angry residents might turn on you afterwards. For that reason, only do this as a last resort. 9. Before Sam gives up entirely, he'll make one last attempt to stop you. As you'll probably have already noticed by now, each of the proxy's limbs end in a long piece of large, jagged wood. With the right amount of force, the proxy can dislodge them from its body and send them careening wildly and hazardously through the air. Be prepared to swerve before this happens. Sam's broken several windshields and wrecked more than a few cars this way. 10. After you've escaped, send your vehicle to the repair shop next door to our restaurant. Even if there's no physical damage, those proxies are more wood than they are flesh. And given also how Sam often lays wood splinters on the road, there's a good chance there's wood fragments deep within your car. Tell the mechanics you had an argument with Sam, and they'll know what to do. They'll probably need to keep your car for a few days, especially if there's actual damage. So we'll provide you with a temporary vehicle for deliveries in the meantime. It is beyond important that you don't simply drive the car home. That should be everything you need to know about Sam Ninso. He's easily one of the more unusual residents of Cribble-ruck Run, and by far its largest inhabitant. And while he's highly manipulative, and we also have no clue where he gets all that jewelry from, most of it is antique, easily a few hundred years old. He pays consistently and is truthfully one of our more polite customers, aside from his predatory tendencies, of course. Like many of Cribble-ruck Run's residents, we've had a few unfortunate incidents with him. The worst by far was the first time we ever delivered to Sam. Brandon, the poor driver we sent that night, didn't know what we know now, and thus made several mistakes. First, he tried to go straight to the door. Remarkably, he managed to escape Sam's tendrils and claws, but immediately after he drove off, the proxies gave chase. His second mistake happened here. After swerving in several circles and crashing into the monstrosities a few times, Brandon became partially covered in wood shrapnel. But eventually he got them out and actually escaped the neighborhood. He returned to our restaurant half scared out of his mind. He almost quit, but we were able to change his mind with a generous bonus. However, this was not the end of that poor boy's misfortune. When he drove home that night, his car was visibly covered in wood splinters. This was Brandon's third and final mistake. Any wood from that house is a living, conscious part of Sam, and no matter how small the piece is, it's a piece that Sam can feel, and as a result, track and locate. That next day, Brandon didn't show up for work. We tried calling him, but were met only with his voicemail. After the second day, he missed work. We resolved to check on Brandon personally. But when we came to his address, we were greeted by a strange sight. Brandon's house had changed appearance significantly. It now sported a large raised porch, along with a constantly flickering porch lamp. Not only that, but someone had apparently broken his left front window. It was only after we approached the home ourselves that we understood what had truly happened. Brandon's house disappeared entirely the next day, and even now Brandon himself is only considered missing. Sam left no trace or possible evidence Brandon had ever existed whatsoever, but we unfortunately know right where he is. Our deliverers still see him every now and then, peeking from behind Sam's door, trying to coax them inside with a voice that isn't his own. So, do be particularly cautious when dealing with Sam Ninso. He's living proof that all is not always what it seems. And as the saying goes, a house isn't always a home. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering on Christmas Eve. Hello, Daryl. First, we're beyond intrigued by how your delivery to Sam Ninso went, given how unusually cooperative he apparently was. He almost never lets our delivery drivers leave without a chase first. Secondly, happy holidays. You should have received the gift we sent you by now, and we hope you're delighted by it. That said, you should know we're about to be very, very busy. The holiday season is upon us, and with it come several customers who only order at this specific time of year. However, given the many incidents we've had with them all over the years, and given how relatively new you are, you'll only be delivering to one of them this year. This particular customer only ever orders on Christmas Eve, and on that night, Cribble-Ruck Run tends to be hazardous in new and unusual ways. Many individuals and creatures who would normally keep to themselves flock to the neighborhood this time of year. You've probably heard of several of them. And this phenomenon is at its absolute worst the night before Christmas. It's troublesome enough that we have rules specifically for delivering on that night. We've included those rules below for you, so please read them thoroughly. As always, we wish to be certain you are properly prepared for Cribble-Ruck Run. Rules for Christmas Eve deliveries. 1. Please wear the present we gave you while you're in Cribble-Ruck Run on this night. As much as we hate to ruin the surprise, it's a sweater. We realize how strange of a request that is, but trust us, it is absolutely in your best interest that you wear it. 2. Before leaving, take one of the extra large fruitcakes we made with you. Chances are you'll be glad you did. 3. When leaving your car for a delivery, make sure all the vehicle doors are locked. On this night, there's a band of 13 mischievous white-bearded lads who like to wander the neighborhood, looking for trouble. They'll gladly cause a general ruckus and mess with your car, given the chance. 4. If you do notice the lads we mentioned while you're making a delivery, be particularly watchful of the one with several candlesticks tied to his back. While the others really only want to eat the pizzas in your car, slam its doors, or dance on the roof, this one is beyond eager to steal your headlights. Don't give him a chance to do so. 5. If at any point you notice 2 moons in the sky, be especially mindful of the road and be prepared to stop suddenly. 6. Don't be alarmed when the moons blink. 7. After you first notice the moons, chances are the road will suddenly be blocked by what appears to be a descending black pillar of nothing. If you aren't wearing the sweater like we told you to, put it on now, then step out of the car. This situation is the reason that sweater is important. 8. Stand perfectly still to ensure those massive, moon-like eyes can see you properly. This creature has a long traditional name, but we call it the kotarin. Once it's properly seen your sweater, the air will briefly fill with a near-deafening sound, not unlike the purring of a huge cat, and the kotarin will promptly lift the pillar, which is, in fact, a massive black paw, out of your way. Trust us when we say things won't go that smoothly without the sweater. 9. You may see a huge, hunched-over old lady walking down the side of the road with a constantly shaking, squirming bag slung over her back. Her name is Greela. When you see her, either turn around and drive away in the opposite direction, or pick up the speed and be ready to dodge her frenzied, remarkably quick lunge towards your car. Greiler's here to visit a few friends for the holidays, and she never passes up a chance to bring them extra gifts. Unfortunately, live prey is one of the best gifts there is in her eyes. 10. Be wary in general if you see anyone hanging next to the road, especially if the individuals are looking around frantically. Chances are they're looking for last-minute gifts. Given the time, they probably won't be even slightly picky about what gifts they catch. 11th. Do not get anywhere near the large pine tree at the center of Cribble-Ruck Run tonight. There's a rather cold fellow who likes to hang out on that tree. He's antisocial and quite likely to ice you out, in the literal sense. 12. Should the air fill with the sound of ringing bells, do not stop driving until the sound goes away. Several of the yearly visitors Cribble-Ruck Run gets tonight wear bells on their clothes, and most of these individuals are less than friendly. 13. Should you hear the bells while you're outside the vehicle, be as polite and friendly as possible until you're back in the car. Whichever one it is, none of them will harm a kind individual. However, you'll deeply regret their reaction to bad acting. 14. When driving, you may hear loud rummaging suddenly coming from your back seat. Should you turn around to see a small figure with a green cap, leave them be. They don't wish you harm, and you just might be glad they're there. 15. If upon looking in the back seat you see a Russian nesting doll, throw it out of the car immediately, being careful not to open it. The creatures living inside it are less than pleasant. Any of the creatures not in the doll will flee your car in a panic once their home is out on the road. 16. If somehow one of the lads got in your car, shoo them out, but don't physically hurt them. Their mother is very, very protective of them. 17. If you see a fallen tree on the road up ahead, quickly put the car in reverse and turn around. The trees absolutely love setting traps on Christmas Eve. That fallen tree won't stay fallen for long once you get close enough. 18. There's a good chance the weather will suddenly turn to snow. When it does, pay close attention to how much snow is falling as you drive. If the snowfall suddenly increases dramatically, turn around and try to find a different road. This seemingly random blizzard is tied to a hopelessly lost, troubled individual. It's best you don't meet him. 19. Should the snow get so bad you can't drive properly, stop the car, turn off any and all heat within, and wait. With any luck, the snowfall will clear up shortly and you can drive off. 20. If while waiting you see a tall figure approaching from within the snow, get out of the car immediately and run for it. That individual is the blizzard's source as well as its prisoner. We call him the Frozen Man. 21st. Be watchful of where you're running to as you flee the Frozen Man. This blizzard plays tricks on the senses. If you aren't careful, you just might find yourself accidentally running straight towards its frozen captive. 22. Do not attempt to look directly at the Frozen Man's face and do not let him get close enough to touch you. This poor fellow has been like this for a very long time. He is extremely cold and equally lonely, longing desperately for warmth as well as company of any kind. However, he has been forbidden from both. Everything he touches freezes at his fingertips, and anyone making eye contact with him will slowly be covered by frost, quickly becoming stiff and unmoving. 23. Once you've escaped the Frozen Man, try to wait before returning to your car. He will likely be drawn to your vehicle's lingering warmth and will probably try to thaw himself with it. 24. Given how likely the Frozen Man is to be drawn to your car, it will most likely have a thin layer of ice over it when you return. While this won't be enough to keep the car from starting again, it will greatly delay how long it takes you to drive away. Be as quiet as possible and try not to start the car until the snow has stopped falling entirely. You don't want to attract any unwanted attention. 25. As you're leaving Cribble-Ruck Run, there's a chance that a flock of small, glossy feathered birds will start chasing your car. When this happens, pull over next to the stone sign for Cribble-Ruck Run, calmly exit the vehicle with the fruitcake from our restaurant and place it on the sign, then return to the vehicle and leave. Even those little birds need a present to give, and they're bold enough to steal for one. There's a good chance they'll cause you to wreck the car if you don't freely give them a gift. That should be everything you need to know. This season brings out a number of individuals, most of which only come out for the holidays alone. And while these rules should certainly help you with traversing the neighborhood during this festive time, there is also a fair deal of information you need to know about the actual customer you're delivering to. We'll send you said information within the next few days, but you should know he tends to be beyond passionate about Christmas, and oftentimes less than friendly to those who don't embrace the spirit of the season. That said, you shouldn't have any trouble with him as long as you've stayed out of trouble for the most part. But trust us, he'll know if you haven't. There is rarely a moment when he isn't watching. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Nicholas. Hello, Daryl. Christmas Eve is all but upon us, and it's just about time for that delivery we mentioned earlier. While we've already warned you of the dangers that come with delivering on Christmas Eve, there's a lot you need to know about the customer you're delivering to. All the information you should need can be found below, so please, read it thoroughly. It's always best to be properly prepared. Customer name, Nicholas Sinter. Address, 0021 Melody Court. Regular order, large dessert pizza, crust made from gingerbread, topped with peppermints and diced sugar plums. Residence description, quaint log cabin with a large holly wreath display proudly on the door. Regardless of the weather, the house will be covered in snow, given that its owner is present. Customer description, Nicholas is a relatively large old man. He's about 6.5 feet tall and just a tad bit overweight. He wears a large grey fur coat with white embellishments and a white trimmed red hat. His hair is white as snow. His cheeks and nose are nearly always cherry red, and he's constantly smiling as if he just heard the best news in the world. Additionally, he carries a large bag overflowing with candy, oranges, apples, and various spices on his back. Rules for delivery. 1. Once you arrive, listen closely before knocking on the door. As long as you hear Christmas music playing, interrupted occasionally by jolly laughter, you're safe to knock on the door. 2. If, upon listening at the door, you hear even the faintest sound of scratching, clawing, howling, roaring, or sadistic chuckling, leave the pizza on the porch, honk the horn to let Nicholas know his pizza has arrived, and leave. Don't worry about the payment. Nicholas is beyond honorable, and he'll be certain to reimburse us, most likely with an extra $20 and generous tip as apology for the inconvenience. Trust us, you do not want to meet the source behind those unsettling noises. 3. Assuming you are able to safely knock on the door, Nicholas will answer shortly. He'll act like you're a long-lost friend and pay with a $100 bill. The old man will insist, however, that none of that money is your tip. He will instead give you a small box made entirely of quarters. That, he'll say, is your tip. 4. Nick will say this himself, but don't open the box until you're home. He's a generous old man, but also a stickler for tradition. You'll be beyond tempted to open it immediately, but again, do not do it. Doing it there after Nicholas has told you not to is a serious mistake. 5. After you've made the delivery, Nicholas will invite you inside. Accept this invitation. Not accepting it is nothing short of rude in this case. You do not want to be rude around this house. 6. When inside, stay as far away from the wooden door next to the fireplace as you can. There's a reason so many locks and chains are fastened around it. Even getting within a few feet of it could have serious consequences. 7. Nicholas will offer you a mug of hot chocolate. Again, accept it, as denying the drink would be offensive to your host. 8. Nicholas tends to be quite talkative. He'll often end up asking you various questions about yourself, ranging from various preferences and hobbies to personal matters he shouldn't know to ask. Whatever he asks, answer truthfully. Not only can Nicholas recognize when someone's lying, but there's another individual in the house who can full-on sense it. 9. As we've probably made clear by now, avoid being even slightly rude or otherwise offensive around Nicholas. Don't even think about anything remotely hateful. Negative thoughts and emotions have a powerful effect on a friend of Nick's. 10th. Old Nicholas is extremely perceptive. Should you start acting or even thinking offensively, he'll warn you to stop, insisting you might wake up old cramps. Heed his warning. Things could get out of hand very quickly otherwise. 11th. Try to listen to everything going on outside while you're in Nicholas's cabin. If you hear any rambunctious or otherwise unpleasant individuals nearby, politely excuse yourself and leave immediately. Someone is about to wake up, and it's best you aren't around when he does. 12. If you do act offensively or offensive individuals are nearby the house, things might be about to get out of hand. The chain door will start rattling and shaking with force, and a large hairy hand will start reaching through the gaps in the wood. Be careful that the hand doesn't manage to grab you. 13. Nicholas will be quick to act when Cramp starts to get free. He'll try to hold the door shut as its locks begin snapping and breaking off. At this point, get ready to leave. Nicholas isn't anywhere near as strong as Cramps, and likely won't be able to keep him from getting out. Rules for escaping Cramps. 1. If Nicholas yells for you to run, he's about to completely lose his hold on the door, and Cramps will be free shortly. It's best that you leave immediately if you haven't already. Cramps has been locked up all year, and he's more than eager for a little fun. 2. Cramps will chase you down as you flee the neighborhood. While he isn't exactly fast, he's been chasing down runaway victims for quite a while. They don't escape him on a regular basis. While we probably don't have to say this, do not let him catch you. The most merciful punishment he's ever given in this state was a partial skinning paired with the amputations of multiple fingers. 3. Cramps is extremely strategic and knows the layout of this neighborhood quite well. However, he still has several tells you can use to avoid him. That said, you must be vigilant. If you don't act properly according with what you see and hear, you have no chance of escaping. 4. Always listen for the sounds of heavy breathing and rattling chains. Those are typically the best indicators for where Cramps is. 5. Be very, very observant as you're going down the road. Cramps will often throw things at your car in an attempt to distract you. These range from branches and rocks to lawn ornaments and mailboxes. 6. Should you hear the sound of tiles clicking, Cramps is running across the nearby rooftops. Try to spot him as quickly as you can. He'll be leaping towards you once he gets close enough. 7. Should Cramps ever yell, "Run, little rabbit," you need to immediately turn around and drive in the opposite direction. He only ever says this if you're headed into an inescapable situation. 8. Be careful when you hear Cramps laughing. He has a habit of throwing his voice and somehow even the sound of his chains to faraway spots as to redirect and confuse his quarry. Especially be mindful of his laugh when you're at a crossroad. 9. If Cramps ever gets out in front of your car, turn around quickly and immediately. He's been known to catch cars by throwing his chains at them as they drive past, or even just letting them run him down. The tires all but get ripped off the car when he does this. 10. If Cramps does manage to get a grip on your vehicle, your best and only option is to stop the car. His grip is too strong for you to pull away, and the longer you resist, the worse his punishment for you will be. 11. Before he punishes you, there's one last thing you can do. Apologize. Apologies have no effect on Cramps, but he has a strong connection with Nicholas. They definitely have an effect on him. On the off chance that apology got Nick's attention, that may be enough to save you. Truthfully, it's the only chance you have at that point. That should be everything you need to know about Nicholas. He's been around for a very long time, as has Cramps. They work as a pair, with Nicholas rewarding those he deems good-hearted and Cramps punishing those he deems wicked. The problem is, Cramps considers everyone to be wicked. The littlest mistake, be it a single lie or careless neglect, is enough to get his sadistic attention. And even worse, he's been waiting all year to torture someone. His first victim of every year always suffers the most. Last Christmas, a man was found in a ditch missing several of his fingernails and most of his teeth. The previous year, a notably misbehaved child woke up to find he was covered in burn marks and badly crippled. And the year before that, a wealthy businessman discovered that his house had been burnt to the ground. Most notably, however, Cramps has never actually killed anyone, no matter what they've done. For you see, in Krampus's eyes, death is an escape. And that is one thing he will never be. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Broken Hand Pond. Hello, Daryl. It's been quite a while since we last sent you to Cribble-Ruck Run, given the nature of the individuals drawn to that area during the holidays, combined with that unfortunate turn your last delivery almost took. We've been a bit hesitant on sending you there again. That said, the holidays are now over, and several of the neighborhood's more dangerous visitors have left for the year. Therefore, we'll shortly be sending you on another delivery to Cribble-Ruck Run. However, this next customer happens to live in one of the more hazardous parts of the neighborhood. Broken Hand Pond, named for its resemblance to a twisted, badly mangled hand, this moderately large body of water is home to a number of our more troublesome customers. And as it happens, they aren't the only hazards the pond has to offer. Many more unsavory creatures live within the pond's waters, and several more keep extremely close to the water's edge. For this reason, we have a set of guidelines specifically for Broken Hand Pond, as to avoid any unfortunate incidents. We've attached them below, and ask that you read them in their entirety. It's our #1 priority to make sure you're properly prepared. Rules for Broken Hand Pond. 1. Broken Hand Pond is completely encircled by the road Champ Lane. It is therefore the only road you should be on when delivering there. That said, you'll still see signs for a number of other roads once you've reached the pond. Ignore them all. Most of these signs are traps set by the residents. The ones that aren't don't lead anywhere you want to go. 2. Before pulling onto Champ Lane, be sure that the road sign isn't turned upside down. If it is, turn around, call the customers, and tell them their orders have unfortunately been cancelled due to hazardous conditions. Believe it or not, they'll usually be quite understanding. That sign only flips upside down when the pond's trees have stopped behaving. It's far too risky to approach the pond when they do. 3. Towards the far end of the water, there is an unusually large, unusually tall oak tree facing the road. As it comes into view, watch its branches closely. If they seem to twitch uncontrollably as you get closer, turn around immediately. All the trees here are troublesome, but this one in particular has a nasty habit of accidentally falling on passing cars. 4. On the note of the trees, take care not to run over any roots you see stretched across the road. Best case scenario, you get a flat tire, an oil leak, or another inconvenient damage to your car. Worst case, however, tree roots will start rapidly tearing through the underside of your car. The whole vehicle could start flying through the air and into the pond, or you might even find yourself wrapped within a nest of unforgiving branches. We think it goes without saying that none of these things are desirable. 5. Do not, under any circumstances, touch the water. Several of its inhabitants are highly sensitive to vibrations and likely to inspect anything that disturbs the surface. 6. You may notice a white horse with a badly tangled mane at the water's edge. If it approaches you, don't let it touch your car, and absolutely do not touch it with your bare skin. The fur covering this horse is a surprisingly sticky adhesive and surprisingly strong. The creature itself is more than capable of dragging anything it traps back into the water. 7. Be cautious of anything you hear when near the pond. Several of its more predatory inhabitants use a variety of sounds to lure potential prey close. These sounds include, but are not limited to, musical instruments, harmonious singing, the crying of an infant, children laughing gleefully, and a man singing about azuki beans. 8. Speaking of sounds, you might hear a panicked voice telling you to run. If you do, go towards it. The creature responsible is clever and excellent at throwing its voice. Go in what seems to be the opposite direction of the sound, and you'll in fact be heading right to its source. 9. Always watch for wet spots on the road. That's a big indicator that someone, or something, has left the pond. None of the ones who do like straying far from the water, so they'll probably be nearby. They might even be waiting to ambush someone as they drive past. 10. You'll notice there's a large flock of ducks swimming on the pond. Keep an eye on the flock's whereabouts. Several of the pond's inhabitants love duck meat, so the birds always keep to the most uninhabited parts of the pond. You can use this to get an idea of where everyone is based on what parts of the pond the flock avoids. 11. If the ducks ever fly away, turn around and leave the pond's vicinity immediately. There's only one thing that scares those birds enough to make them leave the pond, and it's best you never find out what that thing is. 12. If you notice bright, flickering balls of light floating just above the water's surface, avoid looking at them directly. They have a powerful influence, and you might be inspired to drive your car off the road and into the water if you look at them too long. 13. There's a small waterlogged cabin on the eastern side of the pond. Normally, it's leaning heavily towards the water. If, however, you notice that the structure appears to be tilted towards the shore, stay as far from that side of the pond as possible and be certain not to drive past that house. The house's owner is hunting, and he has quite the appetite. 14. If you notice a large rope stretched across the road, turn around immediately. That rope is a makeshift fishing line, and its caster won't hesitate to pull a big catch into the water. 15. If at any point you observe fish floating up and out of the water, be absolutely quiet. One of Broken Hand Pond's inhabitants is extremely particular about everything around her. She's beyond intolerant of anything she considers abnormal, which is not only why she removes any fish she dislikes from the pond, but also why she'll yank you through the car's windows if you make any sounds she doesn't approve of. 16. When leaving Champ Lane, be positive that you don't smell wet moss lingering in your vehicle. If you do, pull over and demand that any passengers return home immediately. Shortly, your trunk should fly open, and a little creature resembling a small child covered in swamp debris will come crawling out and promptly scurry towards the pond on all fours shortly. Oliver's not malicious or ill-willed, but he's impishly mischievous. We couldn't even tell you how many accidents he's unintentionally caused by pulling pranks on the car's hapless drivers. That's the basics of what you need to know about Broken Hand Pond. As we're sure you know by now, more than a few people go missing around Cribble-Ruck Run every year. However, more than a fair share of them can be contributed to the pond. Although most of its residents generally keep to themselves, the ones that don't tend to be more than slightly problematic. Take the giant oak, for instance. If you were to look closely at its trunk, you'd realize there's bits of metal sticking out from creases in the wood. The reason for this is the same reason that oak is so big. It's not entirely made of wood. Numerous cars have been crushed, folded and wrapped into the trunk of that tree, along with their unfortunate owners. To the oak, all those cars were trophies, and sometimes it just can't resist taking another one for the collection. That said, the oak is only a part of why Broken Hand Pond is so dangerous. That tree isn't the only one out looking for prizes, though it's certainly the most forgiving. You see, the tree tends to end. Its victims' lives so quickly, they never realize what happened. Nothing else in those waters gives their prey that luxury, so do be careful when you're near that pond, for every time you look at its waters, at least a dozen more eyes are looking back at you. Sincerely, Nick and Rick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Macule. Hello Daryl, as we mentioned previously, you'll be headed on your first delivery to Broken Hand Pond shortly. As always, however, we have additional information regarding the customer himself. While he's not exactly the pond's worst inhabitant, he is dangerous enough to warrant more than a few precautions. Everything you need to know is included below. Customer name, Macule. Address, 2945 Champ Lane. Regular order, small cheese pizza, extra crispy crust, topped with pig eyes, long fingernail clippings, and pacu teeth. The order also requests a large bag of kettle-cooked chips. Residence description, small pool covered in lily pads at the far end of Broken Hand Pond's first finger. Its edges are almost entirely surrounded by large, flat rocks. Customer description. Macule vaguely resembles an unusually large, extremely thin grey monkey. He's approximately 6.5 feet tall when standing, though because his arms and legs are equal in length, he usually walks on all fours when he isn't submerged in water. Each of his eyes have 2 speckled green irises each, and his partially webbed, sharply clawed opposable hands are covered in smooth, thickly mottled skin. The rest of his body is coated in short grey fur, and while his head is much like that of a wild dog, the teeth within his heavily whiskered jaws have much more in common with a crocodile. His most unique feature by far is his tail. The surprisingly muscular appendage is not only twice the length of Macule's body, but also ends in a slender third hand. Lastly, the customer wears a colourful, multi-stranded, macabre necklace, decorated with several dozen teeth, claws, and whole fingers strung intermittently across the different strings. Rules for delivery. 1. Be sure to wear sunglasses, gloves, and a face mask during this delivery. If you don't have any of these items, take the ones you're missing from our supply room. They are beyond important. 2. There's a chance you'll hear a baby crying as you get closer to Macule's abode. If you do, call out to the customer stating that his pizza has arrived. The crying won't stop right away, but should cease entirely after about a minute. 3. Stay away from the water completely until the crying stops. Macule uses that sound to lure hapless prey towards him. Anything approaching the water's edge while he's crying is guaranteed to be dragged into its depths. 4. Given the sheer number of rocks surrounding the water, you'll have to stand on them to make this delivery. Watch your footing carefully. The rocks tend to be quite slippery, and Macule will be quick to strike if you fall. Additionally, be watchful for frogs as you walk on the rocks, being especially careful not to step on them. Macule has a genuine love for frogs, and tends to get violent quickly when they're mistreated. We dread to think of what he'll do if you accidentally crush one. 6. Makwil will rise partially out of the water once you're close to him. He'll greet you with a wide, toothy smile. If he starts to climb onto the rocks, however, step back as far as you can without losing sight of him. It's best you don't let him get too close. 7. If the first rule wasn't warning enough, do not let Makwil see your eyes, teeth, or fingernails. You don't want him thinking you're part of the order. 8. Be careful that you don't drop anything into the water. While getting the item back won't be hard, Makwil will be greatly offended that you've littered in his waters. He'll throw it back at you with force, along with a few shells and small rocks. 9. While you should never touch the waters of Broken Hand Pond, that goes for double with Makwil. As far as he's concerned, the water in this corner of the pond belongs to him, and only him. Nothing other than fish and frogs are allowed in it, unless it's food. Anything else will be thrown from the water in pieces. 10. There's a great chance you'll suddenly hear someone shouting directly behind you. Don't be alarmed and react as little as possible. Makwil is excellent at throwing his voice, often using it to create distractions. Should you turn towards the shouting or panic in any way, Makwil won't hesitate to pull you into the water. 11th. Watch the movement of the water's surface carefully. Makwil's tail has incredible reach, and he often twitches it just under the surface before striking. The resulting rippling is the only warning you'll get before the tail lunges out at you. 12th. Makwil will start chewing on the pieces of his necklace once he sees the pizza. That said, if he begins completely eating those pieces, be very wary. His appetite is stronger than usual, and you might join the pizza and chips if you aren't careful. 13. If Makwil does start biting off parts of his necklace, gently shake the bag of chips. Makwil loves the hard crunch of kettle-cooked chips, and the sound of them rustling is an excellent way to take his focus onto them and off of you. 14. Be careful that you don't break any chips when handling the bag. While he'll be excited by the sound of rustling chips, that enthusiasm will turn to anger fast if he hears them breaking. That's one less chip for him to chew, and if too many are lost, he won't be happy about it. 15. Do not give Makwil the bag of chips until after he's paid and you're ready to leave. Those chips are the main reason he's behaving himself. You probably won't stay out of the water for long if he gets them too soon. 16th. Makwil will pay for the order with exactly 30 cocoa beans. He'll put them all in a bag, counting them as he does. Be wary, however, when he throws the bag to you. He's likely to use this as a distraction to strike with his tail. Be prepared to jump back if necessary. 17. Makwil's also likely to throw a small, tightly sealed jar at you after he's given you the bag. While you should also be watching for his tail when he throws it, there's nothing concerning about the jar otherwise. It's your tip. It contains a rather delicious, though surprisingly spicy, chocolate beverage. 18. If and when he throws the jar, be certain it does not hit the rocks and break. Makwil makes the jars and beverage it contains himself, so he'll be greatly irritated if you're careless with them. 19. Once Makwil has paid, throw the pizza to him, followed by the chips once you're almost off the rocks. Trying to give him the food by hand is far too risky. Be particularly careful to watch for frogs as you go to leave. They have a tendency of gathering around people's feet as they leave Makwil's pond. We think the frogs are trying to get people to misstep and fall into the water. And don't forget how poorly Makwil will react if you accidentally step on one of them. 21. If Makwil starts growling, followed by his pupils wildly contracting and dilating, you've managed to enrage him. He'll shortly dig one of his claws into the back of his hand, writing on himself and chanting in a language time has long forgotten. He won't ever do this until he has his pizza and chips, but you want to be as far away from him as possible when he does. He's trying to tether himself to you as well as your location. The further away you are from Makwil, the more likely this is to fail. Rules for removing the mark. 1. If Makwil's tethering was successful, you'll feel a sudden intense itch on the back of your right hand. Once the itching fades, a small shape resembling an outstretched hand will be left in its place. This is Makwil's mark, and it's a serious danger to your well-being. Anyone bearing this mark is connected to the monster who gave it, and is therefore a target of its fury. While this rarely ends well for the bearer, the mark will eventually fade on its own after about a week, as will its effects. Everything you need to know in order to survive that week can be found in the following rules. 2. Keep an eye out for frogs of any kind. Frogs are the only creatures Macule genuinely likes, and many of them follow him around frequently. Seeing a frog while you carry the mark is a good sign that Macule himself is close by. 3. While bearing the mark, avoid water as much as possible. This includes ponds and rivers as well as pools, bathtubs, and even your own sink. Macule has a strong connection to water and may manifest part of himself within it. 4. Only drink and bathe in distilled water until the mark goes away. That's the only kind of water Macule doesn't have a connection with. 5. Stay home for the last 3 days of the mark's duration. The longer you have the mark, the stronger your connection to Macule will be. For this reason, be especially wary of even small collections of water as the week goes on. The last victim Macule marked was pulled into a bird bath after possessing the mark for 5 days. Be certain all your windows and doors have durable locks on them. Macule's mark tells him exactly where you are at all times, and he will attempt to break into your house eventually. 7. While this should be obvious, don't open your door if you hear an infant crying on your doorstep. Macule will always try this trick at least once. 8. Tape the handles of any sinks or faucets firmly in place. Macule has a sway over water, and he's been known to flood his victims' houses by opening all their faucets from the inside. 9. If Macule's hand grabs you from a sink, tub, etc., do whatever you have to in order to break free before it gets you into the water. You'll be dragged into Macule's pond if you can't escape. 10. Keep a multitude of kettle-cooked chips as well as other crunchy foods in your house whilst bearing the mark. Macule is specifically targeting you, but while he does favour eyes and teeth, he can't resist eating anything crunchy. Should he manage to get into your house, enough crunchy foods might lead him to raid your kitchen instead, eating his fill before he even finds you. He'll then temporarily lose interest, buying you valuable time. 11. If at any point you notice a frog has gotten into your house, lock yourself in a secure room immediately. As we said earlier, they often follow Macule around. Chances are, a frog being in your house means that Macule is in your house. 12th. On the 7th day, Macule will try his hardest to reach you. Barricade your doors and windows, heavily tape any notoriously leaky pipes, and put plugs into any and all potential water sources. If there's even a single way he can get inside, that's the day he'll find it. 13. Be absolutely positive that Macule doesn't get even a slight glance at you as the mark is fading. He'll try to re-establish the mark, but he needs to visually see you to make that happen. 14. Finally, stay inside 10 hours after the mark fades entirely. That's about how long Macule will wait around afterwards. Once you have, there's nothing to worry about going forward. Macule will lose interest quickly, and thanks to his spacey memory, he'll forget where you live shortly afterwards. And that should be all you need to know about Macule. He is one of Cribble-ruck Run's least human residents, and certainly part of the reason mutilated corpses occasionally float down the river that flows from Broken Hand Pond. He isn't terribly fond of most creatures, with frogs being the only ones he genuinely seems to care about, being directly responsible for the large population of amphibians living within the pond. He's also the reason nothing living within it messes with frogs. As we mentioned previously, one of Broken Hand Pond's residents regularly removes anything she dislikes from the pond, floating them up and out of the water and then throwing them into the trees. Her name is Chol, and when Macule moved into the pond, she was more than slightly disgusted by the dozens of frogs that joined him. Her first reaction was to throw them from the water. However, she hadn't even removed 2 of them before the water around Chol seemed to explode, and suddenly the monstrous woman was thrown from the water herself. But before she could react, a long hand struck out from the pond and dragged Chol back in. A horrible shrieking soon filled the air, followed by wild thrashing and furious howling. Once the chaos ended, Chol was badly scarred, having lost an eye and several of her teeth, as well as a large part of her right arm. This, you see, is why it's so important to watch out for frogs around Macule. He was willing to permanently disfigure Chol for simply throwing his beloved frogs around. What he'll do to someone who actually kills a frog is not a concept you want to consider, and it's absolutely not one you wish to experience. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Narissa. Hello, Daryl. We're glad to hear that your last delivery didn't take any unfortunate turns. Things could have easily gotten out of hand quickly with McQuill, given his unusual cravings. But since all is well, we'll be sending you back to Cribble-Ruck Run shortly. More specifically, we're sending you to another regular customer of ours from Broken Hand Pond. For what it's worth, this one isn't anywhere near as irritable as Macule. She is, however, a tad bit possessive. So, as always, we've provided detailed information regarding this customer to help you out. Be sure to read it thoroughly. Customer name, Narissa. Address, 2991 Champ Lane. Regular order, large Hawaiian pizza, topped additionally with raw clams and oysters. Residence description, small sandy inlet on the northernmost bank of Broken Hand Pond. It's enclosed almost entirely by ferns and willow trees. Numerous shells and small teeth litter the sand. Customer description, Narissa resembles a beautiful young woman with ghostly pale olive-colored skin. She wears a long, delicately sewn white gown, and her arms are adorned with several large bracelets. She carries an enormous oyster shell with her wherever she goes, the inside having been so thoroughly polished and glazed that it casts a reflection like a mirror. The girl's long flowing hair is primarily black, though it slowly turns ashy grey at the ends, and her big, brilliantly purple eyes have an inherently friendly look to them. However, nothing else about Narissa is even remotely human. She has a set of large gills lining the sides of her waist, with several smaller ones running along her cheeks and across her wrists. Her fingernails have sharp, jagged edges, and her flowing white gown is badly torn at the bottom, as though it's been hooked and snagged on countless branches and rocks. Additionally, while Narissa's in the water, her legs occasionally take on a monstrous form, the long tapering body of a massive eel, patterned brilliantly with white banded stripes across muddy brown scales. More concerning, however, is Narissa's teeth. Each one of them is surprisingly shark-like, being lined with sharp, serrated edges. Disturbingly enough, there even appears to be an additional set of teeth lining the back of her throat. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for Broken Hand Pond, take a set of earbuds with you from the supply room. They can be quite invaluable around this customer. 2. Remove your name tag before leaving the restaurant. For reasons that should become clear soon, you do not want this customer to know your name. 3. Since you'll have to park on the side of the road once you're close to the inlet, be sure to park on the side opposite the pond. There's a few creatures here that might tamper with your car if it's too close to the water. 4. The ground between the road and Narissa's inlet is slightly steep and notably rocky. While you certainly don't want to lose your footing here, be especially careful not to cut yourself on the rocks. The smell of blood can make this inlet's inhabitants quite antsy. Given how restless they'll be from your presence alone, you do not want to make the situation worse. Additionally, as you navigate your way down to the inlet, be watchful for any rocks that appear to be moist or slick. A fair number of unusually large eels live around this inlet, and they occasionally like to climb around the rocks, weaving and entwining themselves amongst them. The eels are surprisingly good at hiding, but tend to leave a noticeably wet trail as they slide across the ground. Do not get closer to them than necessary. These eels have a nasty bite. 6. Once you reach the inlet, Narissa will surface near the water's edge. She'll greet you cheerfully, asking if you'd like to swim with her. For more than a few reasons, it's best you don't acknowledge this invitation. 7. Narissa is extremely charming and very endearing to anyone who meets her. You'll greatly enjoy talking with her as a result. However, it's best you make this delivery as quick as possible. Narissa has sinister intentions for you. The longer you stay on her beach, the more time she has to act on them. 8. Be particularly watchful for the aforementioned large eels while you're on the shoreline. A few of them will always stay near Narissa, and those slender brown fish are surprisingly strong, as well as notably clever. They've been known to sneak up on Narissa's visitors from behind while she talks to them. Once they get close enough, the eels then grab the hapless victims by their ankles and help Narissa drag them into the pond as they fall. Ninth, Narissa is extremely flirty. She'll make more than a few flirtatious remarks, complimenting you as naturally beautiful and a sight for sore eyes. Do the best you can to ignore her. She's trying to distract you so her eels can get behind you. 10. Narissa will try to encourage you to take your shoes off and step into the shallow part of the pond, claiming that it's extremely refreshing. Again, don't acknowledge this invitation. You'll be an easy victim in the water. 11th. Narissa will regularly hum and sing while you're on her beach. When she does, mentally count to yourself until she stops. This is beyond important. You must keep your thoughts occupied while Narissa is singing. Her voice has a powerful pull over everyone who hears it. If you don't distract yourself from its melody, you'll be completely entranced. Narissa can simply just ask you to come into the water at that point. 12th. Do not trust anything Narissa tells you. She will try to earn your trust by giving you advice and information about the pond, claiming to have your best interests in mind, but this isn't quite true. Her only interest is getting you into the water. She'll say anything she thinks might get you into the water, whether that be today or even weeks from now. 13. Avoid staring at Narissa for prolonged periods. The longer you look at her, the more beautiful she'll seem to be. Eventually, she'll look like the most beautiful person you've ever seen. She's even taken on the appearance of a man before this way. You'll find yourself being physically drawn towards her if that happens, and she'll be quick to act on it. 14. If Rule 2 wasn't warning enough, do not tell Narissa your name. She will ask for it. Just tell her you have the pizza she ordered, simply saying that you're the delivery driver. She will insist that you give her your actual name, but absolutely do not give it to her. Names have power, and she's one of the few creatures who know how to use that power. 15th. Narissa will be persistent in trying to get your name. She'll probably try to guess it when she realizes you won't give it to her yourself. If she does manage to guess it, do not give her even the slightest hint that she got it right. Your name can't affect you if you don't acknowledge it as your own. 16. To repeat the above rule, do not acknowledge your name if Narissa says it. There's a chance she's already gotten it from one of our other customers, but even if Narissa does know what your name is, she can only use it against you if you've actually acknowledged it as your name. But if you do acknowledge it, you won't be able to refuse anything Narissa says. She'll be able to simply ask you to walk into the pond, and you won't be able to resist it. 17. If Narissa's gills suddenly appear to start vibrating, followed by a high-pitched ringing sound filling the air as she inhales, quickly put the earplugs in your ears and back away from the water immediately. She's about to sing her song in its purest form. There's not a single creature that can hear this sound up close without being drawn towards it. 18. Narissa will pay for the order with several shimmering hand-sized scales. She'll motion for you to come into the water to take them from her, but that won't be necessary. Narissa will slowly get closer the longer you stay on the beach. By the time you go to get the payment from her, she'll almost be close enough to touch you. Tell her to toss the scales onto the beach and quickly collect them without taking your eyes off of her. 19. There's a good chance Narissa will try to give you a few large cowrie shells as a tip. Do not accept the shells. She can sense where they are at all times and can hear anything spoken around them. This is the most common way she gets our employees' names. 20. If Narissa failed to enchant you, she'll probably come out of the water after paying in a last attempt to claim you. When she does, try not to let her physically touch you. Her skin contains an unusual toxin that can cause strong euphoria, as well as various hallucinations and mild numbness of the senses later on. She often attempts to hug people as a way of saying goodbye, then pulls them into the water as the toxins take effect. 21st. Narissa will also probably try to kiss you at least once. While letting her touch you at all is bad enough, absolutely do not let Narissa kiss you. This is how she feeds. Her kiss can suck the life force right out of your body, along with many of your internal organs. 22nd. Do not turn your back on Narissa as you go to leave. The creature might try to grab you if she thinks she'll have the element of surprise. 23. Once you're out of the neighborhood, pull over and check your clothing thoroughly. Narissa's been known to hide cowrie shells in people's pockets and clothing as they leave. Be very thorough. Several of our employees have found cowrie shells in their clothes when Narissa never even got close enough to touch them. Rules for dealing with the toxins. 1. If Narissa managed to touch you, her toxins will begin taking effect on you shortly. While its effects will eventually fade on their own, they last for approximately an hour, getting more intense with every minute. Read the following rules to help deal with its influence. 2. Get back into your car and drive out of the neighborhood immediately after you were touched. The toxins initially only cause feelings of euphoria, which will make you hesitant to leave, but you must be out of the area within 20 minutes. After those first 20 minutes, your hands and limbs will begin to go numb, followed shortly by the appearance of mild hallucinations. It's best you get out of Cribble-Ruck Run before they take effect. You won't be able to drive in that state, making you an easy target for the neighborhood's inhabitants. 3. Once you're out of the neighborhood, find a safe place to pull over, pulling the car's emergency brake to be safe. As soon as the hallucinations begin, driving will be dangerous. Most of what you'll think you see will be nothing more than strong illusions. You'll quite likely find yourself swerving to miss things that aren't there. Worst yet, you won't be able to tell when the things in front of you are actually real. 4. Try not to react to the hallucinations vocally in any way. While you should be safe from Cribble-Ruck Run's inhabitants on the side of the road, many of them have keen ears. Any unusual or frantic sounds will possibly draw their attention. 5. After about 35 minutes, your arms and legs will go completely numb, resulting in partial paralysis. Rest assured, however, that this is only temporary. It's meant to ensure that Narissa's more persistent victims can't run from her and should wear off a few minutes after it began. However, the hallucinations will still persist for around 20 to 30 minutes. 6. While the numbing of your limbs is temporary, it's best you make sure the car's doors are all locked before it takes effect. Heaven forbid anything tries to get into your car before it wears off. You won't be able to stop the intruder from opening the doors. 7. Never open your car doors, no matter what you see. Whatever you think is out there is, hopefully, just a hallucination meant to lure you out of the car. If you do leave the car, the imaginary image will always try to lead you back to the source of the toxin itself. Narissa. 8. You'll probably think a police officer has stopped by to check on you at one point. They'll instruct you to exit the vehicle, saying that they're taking you to the station. Do not fall for this. The police force around here doesn't patrol near Cribble-Ruck Run. Listen to the officer, and they'll lead you right through the neighborhood and back down to Narissa's beach, assuming nothing else finds you before you get that far. 9. Do not be alarmed when your hands start twitching wildly. This is actually a good sign. The toxins are finally leaving your body. 10. Right as the toxins wear off, you'll most likely hear people you know screaming frantically in the distance. Again, ignore them. This is a last-ditch attempt to get you to chase the hallucinations back to Narissa. 11. After you've fully recovered from the toxins, double-check to make sure Narissa didn't hide any cowrie shells on you before driving away. Again, she is disturbingly skilled at hiding those shells in people's clothing. That should be everything you need to know about Narissa. She's one of the pond's more troublesome inhabitants thanks to her charming nature and entrancing song, as well as the main reason we don't send employees new to the neighborhood to Broken Hand Pond first. It's worth noting, however, that Narissa isn't completely wicked, despite her method of feeding. She does genuinely enjoy people's company, only eating them as a necessary means to stay alive. Narissa's kind cannot survive without draining life energy from other creatures. And believe it or not, every flirtatious comment she makes to you is actually genuine. She truly considers all people to be beautiful. And while she does quite literally suck the life out of her victims, Narissa can't actually bring herself to part with any of them. Instead, she takes each of their remains and reshapes them, stretching the corpse and rolling it thin until it looks like a snake, then detailing it with gills and fins. In truth, each of the eels surrounding Narissa is one of her previous victims, and despite what she's done to them, they seem to love her just as much as she loves them. That said, We think many of the eels climb those rocks so regularly because they're trying to return to their old lives, only to be forced back to the pond instead by an inability to breathe air. But of course, it's best you don't sympathize with Narissa's eels in the slightest. If you do, you just might end up keeping them company. Permanently. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to the Mockhide. Hello, Daryl. We must say we're quite surprised at how your delivery to Narissa went. This is definitely the first time she hasn't attempted to stop one of our drivers from leaving. But since that delivery went so swimmingly, we'll be sending you back to Broken Hand Pond once again, this time to a more animalistic customer of ours. Truth be told, this one has all the ferocity and charm of a saltwater crocodile with an appetite to match, though we're pretty sure feeding an actual crocodile would be less troublesome. But in any case, we've given you all the information you could possibly need regarding this customer. Read it thoroughly, and there should be nothing to worry about. Customer name, The Mockhide. Address, 2924 Champ Lane. Regular order, large meat lover's pizza, undercooked with extra thick crust, topped excessively with shredded mutton and raw pork scraps. Additionally, the whole pizza should be soaked heavily in cow blood. Residence description: the northeastern corner of Broken Hand Pond's shoreline. The mud on the shore here is riddled with deep marks of various shapes and sizes. Several of them resemble deep drag marks, while others show clear signs of large creatures thrashing around in the mud. In any case, all the marks eventually fade right at the water's edge. Customer description: the Mockhide resembles an incredibly large, poorly preserved animal pelt. Its topside is covered in patches of shaggy brown hair, with several large bald spots exposing the weathered brown skin underneath. Overall, the pelt strongly resembles a massive old cowhide. That is, until you look under it. The lumpy underside of this pelt is covered with crowded rows of shiny black teeth. The teeth are so great in number, they collectively resemble a blanket of writhing sea urchins, twitching subtly as their owner moves. The creature also possesses a grim array of pointy white-tipped fangs at its center, and the hide's outer edges are adorned with long, sharply hooked claws. On top of that, the pelt's edges additionally possess an alarming number of glazed, pupil-less, cloudy blue eyes, all of which are attached to long, retractable eye stalks. Mathieu, rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for the area, be certain to take 2 small bags of salt with you from our supply room. It's beyond important to have salt on hand when dealing with this particular customer. 2. If you have any recent cuts or scrapes, be sure to rub them thoroughly in alcohol and citrus extract, then bandage them tightly before leaving the restaurant. Going to this delivery with the smell of blood on you is a big mistake. It happens to be this customer's favorite food. 3. Do not wear jewelry or shiny objects of any sort during this delivery. Such things tend to provoke this customer quite easily. 4. Upon arriving at the Mockhide's dwelling, be sure to take 1 bag of salt with you, leaving the other one on the passenger seat. This is the best way to keep any and all possible happenings under control. 5. Once you're near the shoreline, take no more than 2 steps from off the grass onto the mud. Getting any closer than that to the Mockhide's hunting grounds is a serious mistake. 6. Once on the shore, open the pizza box and start fanning the lid towards the water. The resulting scent of pork and blood filling the air will grab the Mockhide's attention almost immediately. It will arrive soon thereafter. 7. While waiting, be very watchful of the pond's surface. Eventually you'll notice one of the Mockhide's eye stalks subtly breach the water, looking around slowly. The creature regularly scouts for food this way, so this is how you'll know when it's nearby. 8. Once the eye stalk peeking above the surface notices you, slowly open the pizza box to get its attention. At this point, avoid making any sudden movements if possible for the remainder of this delivery. Such movements provoke the Mockhide quite easily. 9. As long as the spying eye on the surface eventually sinks back under the water, all is well, and the Mockhide will soon drag itself ashore to collect its pizza. However, If more eye stalks start appearing alongside the first one instead, quickly get as far from the water's edge as possible. The mock-hide is about to attack. Shortly, the massive beast will launch itself high out of the water in a frenzied attempt to land on you. 10. Assuming the mock-hide didn't throw itself from the pond, it will instead start pulling itself ashore. Once it does, sprinkle the bag of salt heavily in a long line at your feet. The mock-hide hates salt, so this line should be more than enough to keep it from getting too close. 11th, be certain not to empty the bag entirely. Instead, after you've put down the salt line, keep the bag and all the salt left inside it tightly clenched in one hand. Don't let go of it until after you're back in the car. Worst comes to worst, that salt may be the only thing keeping you out of the pond. 12. Do not reach across the salt line in any way until after the mock-hide has taken the pizza and begun returning to the pond. The creature's dislike of salt is strong enough to keep it from reaching over the salt line, but its many eye stalks are surprisingly flexible and remarkably strong. Just one of them has enough power to drag you by your outstretched hand over that salt line and into the water, where it will promptly feast on your blood. 13. Once the mock-hide is relatively close to the line, quickly open the pizza box entirely and face it towards the beast. After it's gotten a good look at the box's contents, the hide will start clicking and gurgling frantically. This signals that it's about to pay for the pizza. 14. The mock-hide will drop a large black pearl into the sand as payment. Do not, however, attempt to collect the pearl yet. The beast could easily take this opportunity to drag you away. 15. As soon as the mock-hide drops the pearl, gently toss the pizza over the salt line towards the creature. Once it's pulled the pie under itself and returned to the water's edge, quickly grab the pearl and get back into the car. 16. There's a good chance that after it returns to the water, the mock-hide will have dropped more pearls close to the pond's edge. Do not make any attempt to grab any of these additional pearls. They are a trap to get you closer to the shoreline. The mock-hide won't hesitate to strike if you fall for it. Again, get back in the vehicle and leave immediately after collecting the first pearl. Rules for dealing with an attack. 1. If the mock-hide ever manages to grab you, quickly throw the handful of salt on it or shower it with whatever's left of the bag of salt if possible. The creature will screech in pain at this, flailing and shaking wildly as it does. It'll be too focused on its own pain to stop you from escaping. 2. As you run, try to keep the mock-hide at least partially in your vision and be prepared to dodge suddenly. As the creature's thrashing gets more chaotic, small parts of its body will actually break off and become high-speed projectiles. Be careful none of them hit you. The situation will escalate quickly if they do. For a few brief seconds, those pieces of hide are still alive as they fly through the air. And 3. If the mock-hide grabbed you, then at least a few of its black needles probably stung you. Unfortunately, they inject an unusual venom as they pierce the skin. It quickly causes extreme levels of pain, which often immobilizes the mock-hide's prey due to sheer agony. But fortunately, it never lasts for longer than a few minutes, so ignore it the best you can until it goes away, or at least until you're back in the car with the doors locked. 4. Once you're back in the car and free enough from the pain to pay attention, quickly take note of any and all injuries you have. Act accordingly based on the injury. Leaving wounds untreated in general can have terrible consequences, but this rule counts double for those inflicted by the mock-hide. 5. Depending on the severity of the wounds, you may need to visit the emergency room at the nearby hospital. Should this happen, be sure you say nothing regarding the more unusual circumstances of your injuries. Best case scenario, they'll probably put you in a straitjacket for claiming a semi-aquatic cowskin tried to drink your blood. 6. If a piece of the mock-hide managed to latch onto you earlier, it's important that you act quickly. The patch of skin will fuse with your own skin quickly, draining you of blood at an alarming rate. To remove it, quickly take the second bag of salt and smother the patch of hide with its contents thoroughly. The fragment of hide will quickly detach from you as a result, briefly writhing in pain before dropping dead completely. 7. If you suddenly feel lightheaded, the mock-hide unfortunately managed to start draining your blood. While this almost certainly won't kill you, it will make driving difficult. If it gets to the point you have difficulty focusing on the road, try to get as far from Cribble-Ruck Run as you can, then pull over and call emergency services. 8. If the mockhide's inner fangs manage to pierce you at any point, quickly drive to the ER. You'll be needing medical attention quickly. 9. Once at the ER, tell the medical personnel you were bitten by an adder or several of them, depending on how many marks there are. The anti-venin for adder bites works remarkably well on the mockhide's venom, probably due to their similar effects and composition. Unfortunately, the bite marks from the creature bear remarkable similarity to snake bites. The doctors will thus wholeheartedly believe you were just bitten by a simple snake. 10. Depending on how many of the mockhide's hooks latched onto you during the attack, you'll need the ER's attention with this as well. The deeper wounds will require several stitches. 11. When the medical personnel ask about these wounds, tell them you were mauled by a large cat. Thanks to another resident from Cribble-Ruck Run, such attacks have been common lately. Since the mockhide's claw marks are also surprisingly similar to wounds inflicted by a big cat, the doctors not only won't have any reason to question your statement, but will also know exactly how to treat the injuries. That should be everything you need to know about the mockhide. This thing is easily one of the pond's more animalistic inhabitants, and in all honest truth, we're surprised it even knows how to pay our drivers. But believe it or not, those pearls the creature pays with are surprisingly valuable, so we're willing to tolerate its bizarre nature for the most part. We even top this particular pizza excessively to keep the thing happy with us. Though, that said, this monster has caused us quite a bit of trouble these past few years. The worst incident so far was when it attacked an employee of ours named Andrew. While he was all around a great employee, Andrew was unfortunately a little forgetful. We sadly didn't pick up on that until later. This forgetfulness led to more than a few complications when it came to the many rules and guidelines of a certain neighborhood. But somehow, Andrew managed to avoid any and all serious consequences on his deliveries. That is, until we sent him to the mockhide. On that delivery, when the thing pulled itself onto the shore, Andrew used all the salt in his bag to make the salt line, and thus didn't have any left over to defend himself with. Worse yet, when that slithering hide dropped its shiny black pearl in front of him, Andrew foolishly reached for the shining treasure immediately. Unsurprisingly, the creature grabbed him by his outstretched hand immediately and quickly attempted to sink its hooks into his arm. But somehow, as the terrified Andrew struggled to escape the eye stalk's grasp, he managed to get the hungry beast so frenzied and riled up that it accidentally fell flat onto the line of salt. The resulting agonized flailing sent countless scraps of the mockhide's body flying through the air. Unfortunately, one of those scraps caught Andrew on the neck. This was the first time this had ever happened, so we tragically didn't know to send a second bag of salt with our drivers yet. So, despite his desperate attempts to rip it off, Andrew couldn't remove the piece of hide from his skin. He had no choice but to quickly drive back to the restaurant for help. Unfortunately, that took more time than the poor fool could afford. After Andrew initially got out of the neighborhood, the panicking delivery driver made a frantic phone call to us explaining the situation. But without warning, a high-pitched shriek interrupted Andrew's own half-screaming voice, and the call cut out completely. Understandably worried, a small swarm of our employees got in their cars and took off in his direction. About half an hour of desperate searching later, one of the searchers noticed a bright pair of lights shining out of the bushes, just off the side of the road and into the woods. Upon further inspection, the lights were discovered to be the tail lights of Andrew's car, with what was left of poor Andrew still stuck inside. Most of his skin had been ripped and torn away, and his remains were so thoroughly drained of blood that there wasn't even a stain where the corpse was sitting. And as our mortified employees looked around the gruesome scene, they discovered a small slick trail leading away from the area. After following it, they found the trail ended right in front of a large river. For a little while after that, numerous small animals were regularly found dead near that river, with every single one of them missing most of their skin and blood. Eventually, the small animals were slowly replaced by bigger animals, until those reports ceased almost entirely, and were quickly replaced by a small number of missing persons cases. At the same time, multiple claims of a giant tan skin floating across the river began to appear in the news, though they eventually faded into obscurity as sightings diminished. But these reports and claims led us to a frightening conclusion. Somehow, those pieces the Mockhide rips from itself out of agonizing pain don't die, or at least not as quickly as they should. They might only survive like this for a few seconds, but if those pieces can hook into a steady source of flesh and blood quickly enough, they can avoid dying altogether. They'll feed on this new source, drinking its blood and stealing its skin, slowly growing, until they eventually need to find more food. Then, they go out and hunt, slowly growing bigger with each prey they claim until one day, they've become another monster entirely. So now, we regularly double-check every car delivering to the Mockhide for 2 bags of salt, as well as having an individual rule about it. That is because, for one thing, what happened to Andrew is nothing short of horrifying, and we wouldn't wish a death like that on anyone or anything. But on top of that, the Mockhide is nothing short of a horrible, terrifying monstrosity and a decent threat to everything around it. The fact that even one of them ever existed is bad enough. We do not want that number to rise more than it already has. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Welcome to the darker side of the internet. Tonight, I'll be your guide through a collection of eerie tales, stories whispered in forgotten corners of forums, cursed threads, and the spaces in between sleep and wakefulness. But before we dive into the shadows, I'm giving away a pair Beat Studio Pro headphones to one lucky soul who likes, subscribes, and leaves a comment below. Whether it's your favorite story or the last time something gave you chills, I want to hear it. The giveaway will take place May 15th of this year. I left a link in the description below of the headphones I'll be giving away. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to the chime maker. Hello, Daryl. It goes without saying that we're beyond relieved the Mockhide didn't give you any trouble on your latest CRR delivery. We've never exactly been keen on sending pizzas to that abomination after what it did to Andrew. Not that we have much say in that particular matter. But in any case, all is well, and will thus be shortly sending you on yet another delivery to that ominous pond within that curious neighborhood. As always, we've once again included any and all information you could possibly need regarding this customer. Given how well you've done so far, we're sure you'll do just fine. But do try to be extra cautious around this next customer. It's very easy to catch his attention. You'll soon understand that is very much the last thing you want from him. Customer name, The Chime Maker. Address, 2943 Champ Lane. At regular order, sardine pizza, topped additionally with large acorns, assorted tree seeds, whole scallops, shells still attached, and smooth flat rocks. Exact toppings often vary slightly with each order. Residence description. Massive sycamore tree, growing right alongside the upper bank of Broken Hand Pond's first finger. Its branches have been heavily adorned with innumerable wind chimes of various shapes and sizes. Customer description. The chime maker strongly resembles a pale Asian man in his mid-20s. He's tall, measuring at slightly over 6 feet in height and notably thin, with his ribs being prominently visible. He's entirely bald, and his choice of clothing is unique. All of it, from the baggy pair of shorts on his legs to the short jacket on his upper body, is made entirely of miscellaneous scraps of colourful fabric. The one exception to this is a long white blindfold he wears at nearly all times. Interestingly, the chime maker doesn't wear shoes of any kind. This is because his feet aren't exactly normal. They're much like those of a monkey, ending in long fingers accompanied by a strong thumb as opposed to short, stubby toes. They all end in inch-long, ivory-coloured, half-crescent-shaped claws, as do his actual fingers, with the inner edge of each one being thinly serrated, almost like the edge of a blade. Additionally, the chime maker's arms are equal in length to his legs, and his teeth are heavily serrated, much like those of a snake. The only other notable thing about him is his eyes, though, thanks to the blindfold, they normally aren't visible, which is definitely for the best. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for the area, be sure to take a pair of gloves with you from our supply room, wearing them until you return. They just might make the difference here. 2. When you get close to the tree, you may hear rhythmic whistling emanating from within its branches. If you do, get back in the car and stay put until the whistling stops. That sound can only mean that the chime maker is seeking new prey. You could easily become that new prey if you're not careful. 3. Once the whistling has ceased for longer than a minute, it's safe to approach the tree. To find the chime maker, you'll have to walk under the tree's lower branches towards its trunk. Chances are he'll be hanging from one of those low branches by his right foot, diligently working on another wind chime for his collection. 4. As he always wears the blindfold whilst he works, the chime maker won't see you approaching him. Thus, he's easily startled by sudden noises. To avoid startling him, gently tap your finger against one of the branches. He should greet you shortly afterwards. 5. Do not attempt to get the chime maker's attention any other way. Any sound other than gentle knocking will spook him greatly, and he'll most likely rip off his blindfold to identify the source of the sound. Trust us, that is the last thing you want to happen. 6. When speaking to the chime maker, be as monotone as you possibly can. It's important you put as little emotion and individuality in your words while around him. He finds personalities extremely intriguing, and he may find yours to be quite artistically inspiring if you're not careful. If one thing's for sure, nothing good ever comes from inspiring the chime maker to make art. 7. Do the best you can not to look at whatever the chime maker is using to create his next wind chime. Chances are it's the most recent thing that inspired him. A sight like that is nothing short of disturbing, and any reaction you give to it might inspire him further. 8. The chime maker is extremely flexible. During the delivery, he'll often twist and contort himself into an impossible number of visibly disturbing shapes, all while working on his next wind chime. Be careful not to sound disgusted or disturbed by the sight of this in any way. He finds both of those emotions to be quite inspiring. 9. The chime maker is surprisingly comical, often making unexpected jokes and exaggerated movements regularly. Do your best not to laugh or otherwise react to his antics. A sense of humor is one of his favorite things, and laughter inspires him greatly. 10. The chime maker will want to inspect the pizza before he purchases it. To do so, he'll remove his blindfold. When he goes to take it off, avert your eyes. It's best you never see what's under that blindfold. 11. Once the chime maker eventually voices his approval of the pizza, it's safe to look at him again. He'll have definitely put his blindfold back on by that point. He dislikes keeping it off for extended periods. 12. The chime maker will pay with a handful of resin stones, possibly even giving you one with an insect or plant inside as a tip. Be certain you're wearing those gloves before you take the rocks from him. The feeling of your skin might make him curious about you, as well as what kind of wind chime the bones under that skin might make. 13. Do not be surprised if the chime maker starts removing toppings from the pizza. He's trying to figure out which pieces will be best for his next wind chime. He doesn't eat anything without making part of it into a wind chime first. 14. As you leave, make sure the chime maker is still working on his current wind chime. There's always a chance his interaction with you will have given him second thoughts about whether or not you would make a better wind chime. He rarely hesitates to change his mind at that point. Rules for when the blindfold comes off. 1. If the chime maker takes the blindfold off outside of inspecting the pizza, you need to be extremely careful with everything you say and do until you leave his sight, especially if he takes it off while you were talking with him. He only takes that blindfold off when looking for new food, so there's a good chance he's considering you as a choice. As such, it's best to take a few extra precautions to ensure he still finds the pizza more appealing than you. 2. Politely, but immediately show the chime maker the pizza when the blindfold first comes off. With any hope, he'll find the pizza intriguing enough to ignore you entirely. 3. Do not make unnecessary or dramatic movements of any kind. Those will grab his attention quickly, along with his inspiration. 4. Make as few facial expressions as possible. This should go without saying, but he'll likely find the emotions those expressions represent quite intriguing. 5. Again, be as monotone as possible while you speak. You don't want him to become any more intrigued of your personality than he already is. 6. Use the word malleable in a sentence. For whatever reason, he's not terribly fond of it. Hearing the word tends to kill his inspiration, and with it his appetite. Do not use malleable more than once. If he becomes too uninspired, he may take you captive, keeping you trapped until he can see if he'll find you inspiring later on. 7. Do not make direct eye contact with him at any point. Don't even look towards his face if possible. His eyes are extremely entrancing, to the point that they strongly influence anyone who looks into them, even if it's just for a second. 8. If the chime maker starts chuckling as he speaks, it's beyond important now that you do everything you possibly can to take his attention off of you. He only chuckles when he's found another source for a new wind chime. 9. Should you hear animals of any kind nearby, quickly bring their presence to the chime maker's attention. There's a decent chance he'll decide to investigate them for his next chime instead, at which point he'll quickly pay for his pizza and immediately dash off to collect the new source for his next wind chime. 10. If you don't hear any animal calls, instead point out any birds you see nearby, describing them with as much detail as possible. There's enough of them in that neighborhood that at least one should show up. Birds are among his favorite sources for wind chimes, so he might forget about you entirely in favor of them instead. 11. If all else fails, ask the chime maker about his wind chimes. He deeply cherishes his memories of making each and every one of them, along with the memories of the unlucky creatures and people he made them all from. Remembering them all will distract him from any thoughts he has of you, at least for a little while. Keep him talking long enough, and he may even drop interest in you entirely, instead returning to his work on the current chime. 12. If the chime maker does choose you as the source for his next chime, do the best you can to focus his attention on one of your hands. He often only takes the pieces he needs for the next wind chime, along with the flesh surrounding them, so you might be able to get him to simply take one of your hands, as opposed to other more necessary body parts. Should you have such luck, it's obviously best you get to a hospital immediately afterwards. That should be everything you need to know about the chime maker. He's easily one of the more artistic individuals in Cribble-Ruck Run, gruesome as his art may be. Each and every one of those chimes represents a hapless creature that was either badly disfigured or completely dismembered by the chime maker, and he's unfortunately very good at catching new subjects, as he calls them. There are actually so many chimes on that tree that its branches have begun to sag. However, the chime maker refuses to stop making them. To him, each wind chime sings a special song, and he believes the best songs come for those chimes made from the sources with the most character. But regardless of the song's perceived quality, he's become heavily obsessed with each of them, to the point that he wants to hear as many of these songs as possible. But while these desires are primarily what makes him a problem, they aren't actually what makes the chime maker dangerous. That would be his eyes. To expand on why that is, let us tell you about a little incident that happened a while back. About 5 months ago, a hiker was found badly injured on one of the highways close to Cribble-Ruck Run. He was missing most of his fingertips, as well as his entire left arm. He had been reported missing the previous day in a nearby forest by the group he'd been hiking with, and was quickly questioned by local authorities upon his arrival at a hospital. What he told them was so difficult to believe, it actually landed him in a psychiatric ward for quite some time. He had claimed that, while he was hiking, a strangely beautiful whistling sound filled the air. Somehow, his group didn't hear the sound at all, and also failed to realize he had wandered off to follow the sound. Eventually, the hiker found the source to the whistling, and was immediately horrified by it. The source turned out to be a creature hanging high in a tree and strongly resembling a man. Except it had hands and feet like a monkey, as well as long, sharp-looking teeth. The hiker was about to get as far away from this man as he could when he suddenly noticed the thing's eyes. Those eyes, the hiker had said, were beautiful. That human-like creature's massive irises contained so many colors, they looked like small circular rainbows, shimmering and rippling within its eyes like vibrant pools. They were so brilliantly colourful that the hiker couldn't look away, not even as the man slowly descended from the tree, not even as the man landed on the ground next to him with a thud, not even as the man grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him into the trees. It wasn't until that man with those brilliantly entrancing eyes sunk its teeth into his arm that the hiker could finally look away, but even then he only did so because he blacked out. Next thing he remembered, he was in a hospital bed, being treated for his wounds. And this, you see, is why the chime maker wears that blindfold. Just as those mesmerizing eyes entrance his victims, the chime maker himself is entranced by each and every new victim he claims. Their individual personalities and mannerisms slowly absorb all his attention, to the point that he can't focus on anything but a ravenous curiosity of what kind of song a wind chime made from such a unique individual could make. Without that blindfold, he'd be so easily distracted by all the living things around him that he'd probably never even finish a single wind chime. So, if you would, be careful around the chime maker. And above all else, do not make him wish to hear your song. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Shackled Jack. Hello, Daryl. We've heard your delivery to the chime maker nearly took a turn for the unfortunate. It never ceases to amaze us just how quickly that strange fellow is willing to make his visitors into wind chimes. But, in any case, you still have all your limbs and digits, so we'd say you handled the situation just fine. So, well, in fact, that we've decided to send you delivering to yet another customer from Broken Hand Pond. We should probably mention that this one tends to be a little invasive from time to time. That said, you've proven yourself resilient these past few months, so we're sure you'll once again do just fine. And, as always, we've provided you with extensive information on this customer to keep you well informed. Read it thoroughly, and you'll have absolutely nothing to worry about. Preparation is key to success, after all. Customer name: Shackled Jack. Address: 2901 Champ Lane. Regular order: large anchovy pizza, topped additionally with olives, sliced onions, and excessive quantities of raw mackerel guts, mackerel skins, and mackerel fillets. Residence description: small section of shoreline near the pond's northmost edge. There's a short gravel driveway, partially obscured by vegetation, leading down to it. Customer description: Shackled Jack is a male human corpse wrapped heavily in rusty steel chains. These chains cover and constrict most of his body, with the only parts not bound being his feet, right arm, and head, save for a single chain running over his left eye. Interestingly enough, Jack's body shows minimal signs of decomposition, with the only visible indicators he's even dead being his pale, bloodless complexion and foggy, glazed-over eyes. Additionally, his black matted hair sways gently around him, and, most notably, his torn but intact face is locked into a sad, melancholic expression. Rules for delivery: 1. Before leaving for the neighborhood, make sure to take with you a magnetic wristband and bottle of white vinegar from our supply room. Trust us, these items will come very much in handy on this delivery. 2. Be absolutely positive you aren't wearing any flashy or shiny objects when you arrive. You'll quite likely get the wrong kind of attention otherwise. 3. Upon getting halfway down Jack's driveway, you'll hear a sudden, sharp ringing sound. Once it occurs, it's important you do not blink until you've parked and are ready to deliver the pizza. More specifically, don't blink both eyes simultaneously. You could potentially wreck the vehicle otherwise. 4. Once you're at the end of the driveway, step out of the vehicle, firmly grip the pizza in your left hand, and blink. There's no other way to effectively reach Jack. 5. After blinking, you'll notice an immediate change in your surroundings. The shoreline will be replaced by a vast, dark expanse of water, illuminated only by sunlight trickling faintly from above, along with a pair of headlights looming up off to the side. It will seem as though you're suspended in the depths by an unseen force. Do not panic when this happens. To return to the shore, simply pinch or otherwise physically startle yourself. The shock will have you back on the shoreline immediately, though you technically never left it. 6. It's in your best interest to finish this delivery as quickly as possible. This is because it is beyond critical that you do not remain on or near Jack's shoreline for any longer than 3 minutes and 24 seconds. Breaking this particular rule will have severe consequences. 7. While underwater, you'll notice Jack floating several meters in front of you. He'll be suspended in the water by a chain stretching down towards the pond's bottom. Several dozen grey sharks will be swimming diligently around him. However, don't worry about them in the slightest. They're surprisingly docile under normal circumstances. The only thing you should worry about at this point is Jack. He'll be eagerly staring at you and his pizza the second you arrive. 8. Avoid blinking excessively down here. Each time you blink, you'll find that you've gotten slightly closer to Jack. Get too close, and he might make a grab for you with his free arm. It's also best you don't blink your eyes individually. While you won't move forward, doing so irritates Jack greatly. 9. Should Jack manage to grab you, quickly snap yourself out of it with a pinch or slap. His hunger's greater than a simple pizza can fully satiate. 10. If, when Jack grabbed you, he managed to bite you, it's important that you soak the wound in the vinegar and put the magnetic band on, if you weren't wearing it already, before returning to his abyss. While those sharks are usually harmless, they'll become a big problem if they smell blood. However, the vinegar combined with the band will be more than enough to keep them docile. 11. To give Jack the pizza, hold it out in front of you and calmly call out his name. His pupils will seem to get larger at this, and many of the sharks will twist to look at you. Shortly, one of the sharks will grab the pizza from you and take it to Jack. 12. Jack will voice his approval of the pizza by savagely biting into it, box and all. Once he does, get out of there immediately. The sharks will join him in his meal. You do not want to become part of that feeding frenzy. 13. Jack's payment will be a bag of exactly 32 Spanish silver dollars, all dated from the year 1779. You won't need to collect this from him physically. Once the pizza's been taken and you see yourself on the shore again, the bag of coins will be sitting on the roof of your car, soaking wet. 14. Once you have Jack's payment and are back in the car, get back onto Champ Lane immediately. Don't even so much as look at your phone first. To restate a previous rule, things will get very bad very quickly if you spend even a fraction of a moment past 3 minutes and 24 seconds on that shoreline. 15. As long as the ringing sound in your ears has faded by the time you're halfway up the drive, you got out in time, and all is well. There's nothing else you need to worry about. Rules for being tethered. 1. If the ringing in your ears persists even after you've gotten back onto Champ Lane, the situation has just gotten dramatically out of hand. You were on Jack's shore for longer than 3 minutes and 24 seconds and are now in an exceptional level of danger. His influence is strongly tethered to you now. Part of you will keep going back to his domain every time you blink, without end. Fortunately, there is a way to reverse this troublesome condition. The following instructions will help you do so. 2. The second you're out of Cribble-Ruck Run, give us a call to fill us in on the situation. Undoing Jack's effects requires very specific conditions, so we'll make sure everything's ready by the time you get back to the restaurant. All you really have to do until then is return in one piece. 3. While this is probably obvious, it's beyond important that you do not blink. The disposition of Jack's sharks changes drastically when people stay connected with their master for longer than 3 minutes and 24 seconds. The fish tend to get so aggressive so quickly that they'll attack the second you arrive. Not even the magnetic band will slow them down. You might not have time to snap yourself out of Jack's abyss before they start biting you. 4. It's also important that you avoid blinking your eyes individually. While it is technically a safe way to blink, as you won't go to his abyss, Jack knows when you blink either eye. He'll perceive blinking your eyes separately as a taunt. Trust us, taunting Jack is a serious mistake. 5. After about 15 minutes of initially being tethered to Jack's influence, you'll start hearing a low, raspy, whispering voice calling out to you. It will usually ask calmly for you to blink, insisting that's your best option. Do not talk back to this voice in any way once it appears. Believe it or not, this situation can still get worse. 6. Once the voice realizes it's being ignored, it will quickly go from calm and reasonable to angry and hostile. It'll start yelling and shouting threats ranging from torturing you horribly to hunting down everyone you know, often even calling out your full name too for added effect. Whatever it says to you, still ignore it. As long as you do, yelling is the absolute worst thing it can do. 7. On occasion, a dark, watery shadow will appear alongside the voice. Do your absolute best not to acknowledge this thing either if it appears. Do, however, keep track of what it's doing. The only reason Jack's shadow ever shows up is to scare you into blinking, most commonly by dashing towards you suddenly or by jumping out from behind nearby corners. 8. If at any point you notice your skin suddenly seems inexplicably damp or you feel the sensation of being submerged in cold water for no reason, it is crucial that you do not blink again. Your link to Jack has grown very, very strong. This can happen if the sharks manage to bite you, or if Jack is sufficiently annoyed by your method of blinking. In any case, blink again, and nothing will be able to snap you back to reality. You'll be stuck with Jack and his ravenous friends for good. 9. Once you're back at the restaurant, there will be 5 of your fellow employees waiting for you in the back room. One of them will hand you a whole mackerel and a knife. Using the knife, carve your name into both sides of the fish's body, then place it on the ground in front of you. Next, simply shout, "For Jack Kedgia," and blink while interlocking hands with your co-workers. Upon blinking, you'll find you're still in our kitchen, albeit sprawled out on the floor and now soaking wet, with a large bruise having formed on your right shoulder. Most interestingly, however, the fish with your name on it will now be gone. 10. As soon as the fish has disappeared, the ringing in your ears will abruptly stop. Jack's influence over you has now been broken and all is well. Don't worry about that bruise on your arm. It'll go away on its own in about a day. That should be everything you need to know about Shackled Jack. As a customer, he's caused us quite a lot of trouble. You'd be surprised just how many of our employees can't get off that beach in 3 minutes and 24 seconds. Although this has only ever gotten one of our drivers killed, the others who stay too long find the resulting experience extremely traumatizing. They often straight up quit before the shift even ends, though typically they're fine otherwise. The few exceptions to this are why we tell you not to acknowledge the voice and shadow that occasionally taunts Jack's potential victims. Half the time, nothing happens after doing so, but when it does, it's never good. We actually lost one of our best employees that way. Her name was Lara, and the mistakes she made with Jack may very well be the only mistakes she ever made in those 2 years she worked for us. During that tragic delivery, Lara stayed with Jack a literal second past 3 minutes and 24 seconds. However, she managed to make it back to the restaurant without blinking. We performed the ritual, and she reported that the ringing sound in her ears disappeared completely. Several frenzied blinks later, she confirmed Jack's influence was gone, and for a moment, it seemed like all was well. However, it quickly became clear Jack wasn't completely gone when Lara started screaming suddenly. Even after the ritual was complete, she could still hear Jack's horrid voice and see his menacing shadow. The reason for this was that, when Lara initially heard Jack's grim voice, she accidentally spoke to it. What she said was nothing more than a panicked "stop," but it was still one word too many. The voice had been acknowledged, and now it was stuck to her for good. We didn't, and still don't, know of any way to remove Jack's effects if the ritual doesn't work, so when repeating it for good measures had no additional effect, there was nothing we could do. Lara did not last long in our employment after that. Jack began taunting her daily, screaming and hissing at her so much she had trouble focusing on her job. Worst yet, Lara also said she was now having a single recurring nightmare every night. In this dream, she would find herself aboard an old wooden ship, surrounded by a large number of people dressed in clothing from the 1700s, all apparently being transported to Australia. Each time, shortly after the dream began, a violent fight would break out on the main deck over stolen food. This dispute would always end with one man being wrapped heavily in chains as four more men dragged him kicking and screaming to the edge of the boat. A fifth man would always try to stop them, but a sixth would always push him away with a strong punch to his right shoulder. The man wrapped in chains would then be thrown overboard, quickly sinking out of sight. But a little over 3 minutes after that doomed fellow initially sank, the people still on board would then start screaming hysterically as large, deep bite marks appeared all over their bodies. Soon, whole chunks of their flesh would start disappearing, until eventually there was nothing left of anyone at all. All that is, save the man who tried to stop the cruel drowning that had taken place earlier, now crying hysterically in a corner. And suddenly, Lara would then see Jack, submerged in a great ocean, smiling madly in front of her, the surrounding waters filled with blood, bones, guts, and hungry sharks swimming all around him. He would then start laughing wildly as the sharks dove for Lara, which is always when she would wake up. After about a week of being tortured like this day and night, the poor girl went clinically insane. We eventually had to admit Lara to a mental health institution for her own safety after she tried driving back to Broken Hand Pond one day. She's still in that facility even now, stuck with the company of Jack's grinning shadow yelling and shouting at her all day and haunted by visions of his demise every night. So on that note, we ask that you be extra careful on this delivery. It's a relatively simple one, but messing it up could cost you greatly. Just give Jack his pizza, don't blink unless absolutely necessary, don't stay on that shore too long, and should things escalate, don't speak to that voice when it appears in your head. Being eaten alive is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering during creeping season. Hello, Daryl. We're relieved to hear you didn't get in over your head with Shackled Jack. As we're sure you know by now, there are a few ways that delivery could have gone wrong quickly, but in any case, you handled it fine. On that note, we've noticed you've been handling a few of cribble-ruck Run's more hazardous deliveries remarkably well. For this reason, we've decided to send you delivering to a few of our more seasonal customers this October. You see, Halloween is a very big deal in cribble-ruck Run. Its residents celebrate the occasion much in the same way we celebrate Christmas, though many of them do celebrate both. And as such, many individuals only come to the neighborhood for this celebration. Unlike us, however, they don't just celebrate Halloween a single day of the year, instead celebrating the 14 days that lead up to it as well. They call this occasion creeping season, and although we make exceptional sales during it, thanks to all the holiday-related visitors, the period is one of the more risky times of the year to be entering cribble-ruck Run. Creeping season celebrations have a tendency of dissolving into chaos remarkably fast. So, as you might have guessed, we have a special set of rules for our drivers during this period, which we've included below for your convenience. Be sure to read them carefully. Again, these celebrations more often than not get wildly out of hand. Rules for creeping season deliveries. 1. Take with you 3 bags of assorted candy from our supply room before a creeping season delivery. Put them in the mini freezer with Granny Longpaw's ham. We'll explain why later. 2. Do not enter cribble-ruck Run without wearing a costume of some sort. Everyone in the neighborhood will be wearing a costume of some kind to celebrate creeping season, and for traditional reasons, they actively hunt anybody they see not wearing a costume. 3. You may hear large groups singing Werewolves of London while in the neighborhood. If you do, immediately start singing along. That song is creeping season's unofficial anthem. Those who sing it tend to be less than friendly with anyone they find not singing the song. We obviously recommend memorizing the song beforehand to avoid any unfortunate incidents. 4. If you notice anyone running close behind your car, throw a few pieces of candy towards them. This is one of the more classic traditions of creeping season. They'll stop pursuing you once they have gotten candy. 5. Make sure to keep decent portions of candy in your pockets at all times. If the above rule wasn't hint enough, candy is an important part of creeping season's traditions. You could get in serious trouble without it. 6. Don't be alarmed if someone in a costume attempts to tackle you. During creeping season, it's considered a fun tradition to attack other costumed individuals in an attempt to steal their candy, which often results in more than a few frenzied skirmishes breaking out. Just give them candy from your pockets and all will be fine. Be cautious of any boxes you see sitting on the side of the road upon stopping your car, regardless of their size. Chances are they're inhabited. Those inhabitants just might try to tackle you for candy if you get too close. 8. Keep a particularly close eye on the trees during this time. They've been known to get particularly rambunctious this time of year. If one of them starts twitching, floor the gas pedal until you've passed it. The thing will likely launch itself at you if you're too slow. 9. Do not stop your car near any house with a jack-o'-lantern on its porch. The individuals who display jack-o'-lanterns follow creeping season's more savage traditions. These traditions primarily involve catching people who get too close to their property. Exactly what happens after that varies slightly between individuals, but it typically involves the captured victim becoming household decor. 10. Keep an eye out for bats flying around during your deliveries. Traditionally, large groups of individuals follow them around as they fly. While these groups almost certainly won't attack you, they flail and trash about very erratically as they pursue the bats. They may even crash and slam into you if the bats fly your way. We suggest immediately running off to the side of the bat's path in advance. 11. Should you ever notice an immense elephant-sized blob of licorice and candy corn slowly rolling down the road, get as far away from it as possible immediately. This seasonal visitor is referred to simply as the confector. It encases everything it rolls over in hardened sugar while simultaneously crushing them into candy-sized pieces under its immense weight. Many of Cribble-Ruck Run's inhabitants follow it as part of a long-standing tradition, throwing foods and random objects of all kinds under the blob to sweeten their flavor. If you're not careful, your car could easily end up being one of the things thrown underneath it. 12. You'll probably also occasionally observe large quantities of candy scattered across the road. This is the doing of one particularly clumsy individual who comes to the neighborhood just for creeping season. Be wary. Any number of creatures could dash onto the road without a moment's notice to gather the scattered sugary treats. 13. You may also notice caramel apples strewn about in the road amongst the candy. Do not run them over. These treats are particularly potent. That caramel is practically superglue and easily strong enough to stick your tires in place. 14. Be sure there isn't any candy visible on your car's seats before making a delivery. Should it be noticed, your car will likely be ransacked for its candy. However, the candy in the freezer should be perfectly safe. For one reason or another, none of the neighborhood's inhabitants ever think to look for sugary treasure inside it. 15. If you notice a gathering of large branchless dead tree trunks leaning near or over the road, do not go under them for any reason. There is a particularly large species of arachnid that shows up here during this holiday period. The skin on their legs and body is so similar to tree bark that the creatures are often mistaken for dead trees. They most commonly hunt by snatching cars off the road, then picking their passengers out with alarming speed. 16. Before leaving any property you've just delivered to, be sure to wish the customer a happy creeping and toss a piece of candy into their yard. It's a tradition, and one you could quite possibly get into serious trouble over for not respecting. That should be everything you need to know about creeping season. Much like Christmas, this holiday period is very profitable for us. Thanks again to all the seasonal customers visiting to celebrate this anticipated season. But of course, these deliveries are quite risky. Last year, one of our drivers was nearly crushed by the confector after it caught his vehicle, and another simply disappeared without any trace or explanation. Additionally, many of our seasonal regulars celebrating creeping season don't actually come here as much to celebrate the occasion itself, but rather to hunt the prey this season leaves vulnerable. Of course, we obviously also have separate rules and info for dealing with them, which we'll be sending to you in advance within the coming weeks. In short, be extra careful in Cribble-Ruck Run during creeping season, and be extra mindful of its celebrators. Do not fall for their tricks, and above all else, make sure you don't become their treat. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Subject 17. Hello, Daryl. As we said previously, we'll be sending you information ahead of time regarding the specific customers you'll be delivering to this creeping season. Below is the first one. It should be noted that this customer, unlike many of the others you've met so far, does not wish to hurt you in any way. He does, however, suffer from a unique and rather unfortunate condition which makes him unstable. Read through the following information thoroughly to ensure you're properly prepared for him. Customer name, Subject 17. Address, 2188 Carpenter Road. Regular order, extra large mushroom pizza, topped additionally with several handfuls of ginger, diazepam tablets, and acetaminophen pills. Also, instead of the usual pizza box, this order must be delivered in a well-sealed bin filled to the top with liquid carfentanil. Residence description: small, heavily dilapidated, single-level house. Several large holes dot the walls and windows on all sides, and the front yard is heavily littered with miscellaneous debris, ranging from various small pieces of furniture to large scraps of assorted automobiles. Also, the front door appears to have been completely ripped off its hinges, with nothing but a barren opening left in its place. Most curiously, the door can be seen partially hanging out of a nearby tree. Customer description: Subject 17 is, for lack of a better term, technically human. He's about 6.5 feet tall, with an emaciated stature, long black hair, piercing white eyes, and an enormous hump on his back. This hump is so big he has trouble putting on most clothing, only wearing a pair of badly tattered pants as a result. He nearly always appears to be wincing in pain, and his facial expression is usually twisted in an agonized grimace to match. There's a thick metal collar affixed around his neck, adorned with several small color-changing lights, along with the number 17 etched into its side. He also sports a set of unusually large white teeth. That particular feature is so apparent because Subject 17 lacks lips of any kind, and is thus constantly drooling. Additionally, his skin is a patchwork of differently pigmented pieces and sections, with numerous stitches and scars dividing them. More grotesquely, large pulsing bumps jut from his body at multiple angles just beneath his skin. Lastly, the hump we mentioned earlier is far more than it appears to be at first glance. It is, in fact, a full second spine fused atop the first one, accompanied by extra ribs, various spare muscles, and even a full set of additional organs. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for Cribble-Ruck Run, take with you an artificial daisy from our supply room, along with the small music box off of the top right shelf. It is extremely important that you have both these objects with you during this delivery. 2. Do not bring light-producing objects of any sort near Subject 17. They spook him greatly. 3. On the note of the previous rule, make sure your headlights are completely off before you reach Subject 17's house. The consequences of not doing so could be disastrous. 4. Do not park in front of Subject 17's yard. Instead, park just off to the side of it. Your vehicle will quite possibly be in great danger otherwise. 5. Once you've arrived, put the pizza on the ground, take out the music box and let it start playing. Shortly after, Subject 17 should come barreling out of the house, limping and jerking wildly towards you. Do not be alarmed in any way by this sight. He'll stop abruptly a few feet in front of you, staring longingly at the music box. 6. As soon as Subject 17's attention is focused thoroughly on the music box, quietly and subtly direct his attention towards the pizza, backing slowly away from it as you do. He'll shortly lunge at the pie with all the speed and ferocity of a starving beast. 7. Keep a safe distance from Subject 17 once he's begun eating. Those substances laced within his pizza are extremely, dangerously potent. Believe it or not, simply getting splashed by the stuff could quite possibly be bad for your long-term health. 8. If, after Subject 17 has begun eating, you hear a loud booming sound emanating from his chest, back away from him further. The first of his several hearts is about to give out. almost certainly due to the impact of the medical drugs he's consuming. This will be followed closely by the failure of several other organs. While this is, believe it or not, temporary, Subject 17 often spasms and flails violently as each organ fails. You do not want to get hit by this random flailing. 9. Pay close attention to the lights on Subject 17's collar as the delivery proceeds. Their color changes regularly with Subject 17's mental state and physical condition. This is not only a valuable indicator of the danger he poses at any given time, but also determines when it'll be safe for you to ask him to pay for the order. 10. Be especially prepared to dodge from Subject 17 while the lights on his collar are orange. This is nearly always the color they'll be when he first comes outside. It indicates that Subject 17 is in an exceptional level of pain and only partially aware of his surroundings. As such, he regularly twitches, thrashes, and jerks around violently in his agony. To give you a better idea of why this might be problematic, that kind of behavior is how his front door ended up in a tree. 11. Keep a particularly far distance from Subject 17 if his lights ever turn red. That means he's either in a higher than average state of pain or is more anxious than usual thanks to outside stimuli. In any case, he's not only more inclined to random agonized flailing and thrashing in this state, but is also completely oblivious to everything around him, save for certain sounds at least. He could come charging in your direction by mistake. 12. It is only safe to proceed with the delivery and ask for payment when Subject 17's lights turn green. This color indicates that Subject 17's pain has subsided greatly and he is now in a coherent, relaxed, and overall stable state of mind. Bear in mind, this almost never happens until he's about halfway through his pizza. Carfentanil is one of the few things strong enough to ease his pain. 13. Regardless of the light's coloration, make as few movements around Subject 17 as possible and speak softly as possible when talking to him. Like we said, this fellow is easily startled, regardless of his current level of pain. Any sudden surprise can cause him to instinctively strike in the direction of said surprise. 14. Once Subject 17 has finished eating the pizza and his collar lights are green, quietly ask him for payment. Due to the nature of Subject 17's condition, he's extremely scatterbrained and won't think to pay you otherwise. 15th. Subject 17's payment is gruesome. Once he's ready to pay, he'll eye up one of his limbs, brace himself greatly, then snap it off in the blink of an eye, tossing the severed appendage towards you afterwards. You may have to wait a minute for him to do this, however. Subject 17 won't be willing to self-amputate a limb until the carfentanil has completely erased his ability to feel pain. 16. Once Subject 17 has paid you, quickly but calmly say thank you. Gather whatever body part he paid with and get back in your vehicle calmly but quickly. The process of Subject 17's limb growing back is nothing short of disturbing. Rules for when the lights start blinking. 1. There's a chance that the lights on Subject 17's collar will not only turn red, but also start blinking wildly. If it's not already obvious, this is a very, very bad sign. Subject 17 has become entirely oblivious to his surroundings, highly irrational in his actions, and extremely violently irritable. Unsurprisingly, this more often than not results in extreme acts of violence, and is invariably a result of accidentally provoking him with lights and sudden surprises. The following rules will help you deal with these circumstances best as possible. 2. If Subject 17 has already started consuming the pizza when this happens, simply keep a safe distance from him and let the carfentanil do its job. It'll have the poor thing relaxing again in no time at all. Otherwise, keep reading. 3. Keep an extra tight grip on that music box. Its melody is your best chance of calming him back down, as it's one of the only things that can still catch his attention while he's like this. However, he will definitely be drawn in the melody's direction as a result. Be prepared to duck and dodge as he flails towards you. 4. Should Subject 17 ever scream loudly while in this state of torment, take cover wherever you can. He's about to start angrily slamming things in his yard into the ground with deadly force. The shrapnel sent flying as a result moves so fast it might as well be bullets. 5. Do not for any reason run for your vehicle while Subject 17 is still in this state. Chances are the car will probably end up going airborne if his fists get too close to it. 6. Be especially prepared to dodge from Subject 17 if you notice the large bumps under his skin sliding around. Those are extra muscles. He can relocate them to greatly increase his strength wherever they reattach. Should they end up in his arms, the sheer level of power his fists contain could easily send you flying into a tree. 7. As ridiculous as this might sound, try singing Subject 17 a lullaby in tune with the music box. This semi-regularly soothes him much faster than the music box can by itself. In any case, it almost certainly can't make things worse. 8. To be safe, don't sing anything, alluding to fire or light-producing objects. On the off chance that Subject 17 is aware enough to understand the words, a song about his worst fear will quite likely drive him even further into a panic. 9. Should Subject 17 ever stop flailing long enough to look at you, quickly pull out the fake daisy and offer it to him. A gift like that will please him greatly. It's all but guaranteed to snap him out of this frenzy. He'll probably start muttering what sounds like apologies afterwards, and the delivery can once again proceed. 10. If all else fails, look at Subject 17 and yell, "Where is Beth?" He should snap out of his frenzied state almost immediately, sobbing and crying excessively before cowering away from you into the depths of his home. This is only a last-ditch solution. It will be very difficult to coax him back outside to finish the delivery. That should be everything you need to know about Subject 17. As with most of Cribble-Ruck Run's inhabitants, we don't really know where Subject 17 came from, or even what he is. The best we can figure is that he's some sort of biological experiment gone horribly, horribly wrong, which then escaped its creator at one point or another. He wanders regularly in any case, only ever coming to Cribble-Ruck Run for a few days in October each year. That being said, we have mixed feelings towards delivering to him as a whole. On one hand, he is undeniably troublesome, thanks to his unpredictable behavior paired with his excessive strength. But on another hand, delivering to Subject 17 is financially worth it, thanks to a certain associate of ours, with a strong interest in the strange being's bodily tissue, thanks entirely to Subject 17's regenerative capabilities. This associate also happens to be the one who supplies us with all that carfentanil in the first place. On yet another hand, regarding Subject 17, we hold a certain level of sympathy for the creature. He's stuck in an apparently endless state of extreme pain, most likely due to complications in how he was made, and cries profusely during the rare moments it subsides. Our employees have also seen him muttering apologies as he sobs excessively over miscellaneous objects he keeps tucked within his clothing, often saying what sounds like names towards certain objects. This behavior is how we know he's affected so strongly by the name Beth. Whatever his connection to it is, that name seems to make him even more sad and miserable whenever he says it. Also, noteworthy is Subject 17's reaction to accidentally injuring his visitors. He's prone to panicking and wailing whenever this happens, and on most occasions, he even attempts to help his accidental victims. A while back, we sent an employee of ours by the name of Tony delivering to Subject 17. Several hours after he left, however, Tony had yet to return from the neighborhood. But before we could go looking for him, we found that he had been randomly dropped off in front of the town's local hospital. He was badly injured, having suffered from excessive blood loss, multiple broken bones, a few dislocated joints, an alarming number of fractures to and around his spine, and a severe concussion. More interestingly, when the poor fellow was initially found by the hospital staff, he had been wrapped in makeshift bandages, fitted with several poorly made splints, and was strapped to a crudely hewn sled, apparently by whomever brought him there to begin with. It's also worth noting that Tony's mysterious appearance coincided perfectly with several reports of extreme vandalism and property damage stretching between the hospital and Cribble-Ruck Run. Doctors concluded Tony had been hit by a fast-moving car, and while the local police initially opened a criminal investigation due to the circumstances of Tony's arrival to the hospital, They quickly closed it after about a month. On top of that, Tony unfortunately never recovered consciousness, so we're not entirely sure what exactly happened on that unfortunate delivery. However, there is one other thing worth mentioning about this tragic incident. When Tony initially arrived at the hospital, he was missing his employee's vest, which, as you know, all our drivers are required to wear on deliveries. And when one of our employees delivered to Subject 17 a year later, she said that after the creature initially finished eating, he gently pulled out a tattered red vest with our logo on it from a pocket on his pants, then promptly began crying into it profusely. The employee was certain she heard him muttering, "I'm sorry," repeatedly, alongside what sounded like a name she recognized, Tony. The best we can figure is that the collection of names Subject 17 mutters, along with the assorted items he mutters them to, all belong to the people he's accidentally lost control around in his pain. He's clearly remorseful of his actions in any case, given how inconsolably depressed he becomes when he's freed from his pain long enough to remember things. But regardless, he is highly unstable and can't effectively control his actions thanks to the consistent agony he suffers from. For this reason, always be extra cautious around him and be extremely careful not to accidentally set him off. You do not want to be the next person he cries for. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to the Hitherwood Fringe. Hello, Daryl. As you've surely noticed, it's been quite a while since we last sent you to Cribble-Ruck Run. We apologize, due to a series of recent and unexpected events, chief of which was an intense, unforecasted lightning storm. We decided it was best to keep the number of our employees in the neighborhood down to a bare minimum for a little while. That being said, we now feel it's relatively safe to start sending the regular number of drivers back to Cribble-Ruck Run once more. On top of that, we've also been getting a notable increase of orders from various sections of the neighborhood which you have yet to visit. As such, you'll be going to one of those areas on your next delivery, the Hitherwood Fringe. If that name sounds familiar at all, it's because Hitherwood Forest is the sizable nature preserve-ish park located to the far north of Cribble-Ruck Run. It's quite popular amongst hikers and backpackers, as well as an assortment of mushroom gatherers, bird watchers, and a handful of urban legend enthusiasts. That last one is thanks to the forest being frequently visited by many of Cribble-Ruck Run's more excitable residents, who are unsurprisingly responsible for most of the peculiar incidents reported to happen in the forest. These incidents range from cryptid sightings, peculiar flashing lights and strange sounds, to inexplicable disappearances, violently ritualistic crimes, and exceedingly odd animal attacks. That said, you won't be delivering to the preserve itself. You see, Hitherwood Forest is so immense that a sizable patch of its trees actually extends into the borders of Cribble-Ruck Run. We refer to this patch as the Hitherwood Fringe. Many of the community's more animalistic inhabitants tend to call it home, and other residents of the neighborhood also regularly pass through the fringe on their way to visit the main forest. So, as you can probably guess, in hopes of avoiding any unnecessary accidents with this place, we have a separate set of rules in place just for deliveries to the Hitherwood Fringe. As always, read them thoroughly to make sure you're well prepared for your first delivery to the Fringe. After all, preparation is key. Rules for the Hitherwood Fringe. 1. Before leaving on any delivery involving the Hitherwood Fringe, be positive that you have at least one whole candy bar with you. The type or flavor doesn't matter, just as long as it's completely uneaten and high in suja. 2. Due to the layout of the Hitherwood Fringe, any and all deliveries to it will have to be made partially by foot. Fortunately, there's a small patch of bare ground near the entrance to the fringe where you can park your car. It's easily identifiable by the large anthill situated to its left. Make sure you park there and only there. The vehicle won't be safe anywhere else. 3. As you park, be careful you don't get too close to that anthill and be absolutely certain you don't accidentally run it over. The only reason this spot is safe to park on is because we have an agreement with the anthill's keeper. Damaging that hill would therefore have serious consequences. For one thing, we'll probably need to find a different place for our drivers to park. For another, you'll probably need to see a doctor almost immediately afterwards. 4. Upon parking, pull out the candy bar and place it in front of the anthill. Upon doing so, turn away from the mound and proceed with the deliveries. Don't turn towards the mound again until you come back. That candy is payment for the protection of your vehicle. The protector in question dislikes being seen when he collects his payment. 5. As you walk toward the trees, you'll notice about a dozen different paths leading into the fringe. Make sure to only follow the one paved with black gravel. To put it simply, the other paths can't be trusted. 6. Due to the nature of this location, the territories of the residents here, along with the short paths leading to the residences within them, are designated by a distinct set of numbered trail markers rather than traditional addresses. Be careful not to approach any of these markers unless they belong to whomever you're delivering for. You'll likely be viewed as an unwelcome trespasser otherwise. 7. Thanks to the fringe being part of Hitherwood Forest, the trees here are completely normal. Thus, unlike the other trees in the neighborhood, these ones are not a threat of any kind. Do, however, be careful not to harm them in any way. While they certainly can't defend themselves, the trees do have more than a few appreciators here that will eagerly come to their defense. Violently, if necessary. 8. As we just said in the previous rule, the trees native to Hitherwood Forest are completely normal. That being said, keep an eye out for any trees completely barren of leaves and keep as far away from them as you can. Due to the unnatural nature of the forest, no plant here ever loses more than a third of its leaves at any point, even if it would normally shed them all. As such, any leafless tree you see here is not actually a tree, but instead is merely pretending to be a tree. 9. There's a chance you'll hear a sudden, mesmerizingly rhythmic whistling as you walk through the fringe. If and when you hear it, start quietly humming a tune of your own, preferably one that'll get stuck in your head easily. That melody, along with its source, can be highly persuasive. You must distract yourself from it if you don't wish to be subconsciously drawn in its direction. 10. Be also listening for the sound of heavy galloping accompanied with a distinct rattling noise as you traverse the fringe. The second those sounds get within earshot, duck down behind the nearest bush or tree you can find and lay completely flat against the ground until it fades into the distance. You must not be seen by the thing making those sounds. It is always searching for food. 11. On one final note regarding sounds in the fringe, you'll likely hear a variety of voices calling out as you traverse the deeper parts of the fringe. Typically, these voices are nothing to be concerned over. However, if the voices start screaming for help, sobbing gibberish, and shouting, "It's inside," it is crucial that you leave the fringe immediately. The owner of those voices is likely seeking to add a new voice to the collection. 12th. Keep an eye out for a dry riverbed intersecting with the path. Once you reach it, subtly check both directions of the bank before walking across to the other side. This riverbed happens to be the path Cribble-Ruck Run's inhabitants take on their way to visit Hitherwood Park. Given the reasons most of them visit the forest, it's probably best that they don't see you. 13. You may notice a massive, incredibly vibrant blue ribbon floating above your head amongst the trees. As it passes by, keep it out of your vision as best you can, and absolutely do not look directly at it. This being is highly predatory. But fortunately, due to reasons that are difficult to explain, it can't see anything that doesn't also see it. 14. While we hope this goes without saying, do not touch any strange-looking structures or ornaments you see hanging from the trees. Among other things, this is a great way to draw the wrong kind of attention. 15. Be sure to regularly look up at the treetops as you walk. The lower branches often hide troublesome creatures with equally troublesome intentions. Should you notice any such creatures, don't walk directly beneath them if avoidable. If not avoidable, sprint past them as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you'll either find that your face is now intimately familiar with the forest floor, or worse, your feet are extremely far from it. 16. Upon attempting to leave the forest, you may find that the path seems to suddenly become endless, with various landmarks appearing far more times than seem possible as you continue walking. If this happens, quickly turn your shirt inside out. A rather mischievous resident here loves messing with our drivers and has apparently chosen to play a prank on you. Reversing your shirt, however, will fix this problem immediately. You shouldn't have any issues leaving after this. That should be everything you need to know regarding the Hitherwood Fringe. While we don't consider the Fringe to be overly troublesome, compared to the rest of the neighbourhood at least, we're still a tad selective on whom we send there. This is due primarily to the unpredictable hazards that delivering on foot through a forest bring with it. It also doesn't help that several of the Fringe's residents have sizable appetites. Take, for instance, the resident responsible for Rule 10, known as the Skogan. After a word, it shouts at anyone it comes across. This creature is a danger to anything that can't get away from it. By some miracle, we haven't actually had any problems with the thing ourselves yet, but it's definitely caused a fair share of chaos for several visitors of Hitherwood Forest. A while back, there was an incident within Hitherwood Forest involving the Skogan and a group of approximately 8 hikers. The hikers had gone extremely far off the main trail in their exploration of the woods, and unwittingly got dangerously close to Cribble-ruck Run's borders. The result, 6 of them went missing, 1 was critically injured, and the other remained catatonic for several days. When the 2 survivors eventually spoke about what happened to their fellow hikers, both told a story authorities found very difficult to believe. According to the 2 survivors, the group had gone off the designated hiking trail in the hopes of finding edible mushrooms. After about an hour of hiking, however, the whole group heard what sounded like a massive animal galloping through the woods, followed closely by a strange clattering sound. Shortly after, the source of the sound came into their view. It was a massive moose, easily standing over 10 feet at the shoulder. Its fur was matted and wild, and clumps of vegetation wrapped loosely around the giant's legs. More disturbing, however, was the moose's face. Its skull was entirely exposed, with a network of sinews and muscles visibly connecting it at the base to the neck. The only other traces of flesh on it were a pair of bulging, bloodshot eyes peeking from within deep, lidless sockets, and a long, gangly purple tongue draping low between the halves of the lower jaw. Its teeth were also uncharacteristically sharp for a grazing animal. Suddenly, the abomination turned its horrible skull towards the hikers and immediately changed direction, barreling towards them as it yelled what sounded like words, "Skogan! Skogan year mot." Within seconds, the monster was all but on top of the now panicking group and wildly snatching its members off the ground as they ran. Each time it caught one, it shook the unlucky person once, swallowed them whole, then attempted to grab another. Understandably, the terrified group ended up scattering in multiple directions as the creature lumbered after them. The injured survivor claimed he only escaped because the monstrous beast had grabbed him by his backpack, but when it went to shake him, he was inadvertently flung from his pack and launched into a tree. For reasons the hiker didn't understand, the monster couldn't find him again. It did root around the area for a few seconds, though, as if it knew he was there, but simply couldn't see him. Shortly, the beast gave up, muttering, "Skogan year, Skogan tar," before rushing off in pursuit of the rest of his group and leaving the now seriously hurt hiker crumpled at the base of the tree, barely conscious. But by a stroke of luck, one of the other members of his group noticed him as she was fleeing. Panicked as she was, she quickly scrambled to get her fellow hiker on his feet. Upon realizing he couldn't walk, she instead lifted him off the ground and, with notable difficulty, carried him back to the park's welcome center, where he was eventually rushed to a hospital by medical authorities. Neither of the survivors know what happened to the rest of the group, but given the number of pained screams the girl said she heard as she ran, she's not confident anyone else escaped. That, of course, isn't the only horrible thing that's happened near the Fringe. One young woman claimed a massive floating ribbon swooped down and ate her boyfriend. Another individual was certain he'd seen a pair of massive hands reach down from the trees and rip a hiker off the ground and out of sight. A couple of kids also insisted a while back that several of their friends had followed a whistling, sickly pale child into the forest and never came back out. And one man swore up and down that a dead tree tried to strangle him to death. In short, the Fringe holds countless stories of death and misfortune within its confines, all of which are direct results of the individuals involved not knowing what to do in specific situations. So be absolutely sure you understand the Fringe's rules before going in. You do not want to become another one of those stories. Sincerely, Nick and Rick Castillo.